Right, hello everyone. Yeah, the intro went a bit weird. Oh, I mustn't shout. Apparently, my stream's going so well so far. Somebody told me that could you lower the pitch of your voice? Certainly. And somebody else says I shout. I get so excited. See,
can you not? I would have said, yeah, certainly. Can you find another channel to watch?
Well, did you hear what?
Can you enunciate?
Did you hear what one of my regulars said? He actually said in chat, he said, some of us come here to tell you how to change your channel. Some of us come here to watch because we like how you do it. And I thought, yeah, I just wondered whether or not, if I do my salty side now, I think it'll go all over Mr. Pickles. Oh no, it won't, because it's not set up on this screen. I keep forgetting. Okay, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Mythras. It's a fantasy game set on the continent of Odes. Basically, the system it's fantasy role-playing game, very similar to Dungeons and Dragons. However, the system is based on D100s. We have hit locations. We have different sorts of spells. We have magic points. We have a little bit more interaction and a lot more danger in the system. We currently have 4 characters. Notice how I said currently there, and they are currently on the.
About that, we don't want him after this week.
No, shh.
Oh, sorry.
Shh. Yeah, I haven't told Hengist that we want an animist.
Bye guys. See you never.
So then we're going to start off, before I give a synopsis of what's actually happening in the world, we're going to start off by allowing the players to describe who they are and who they will be playing. And I hope you've all worked on a suitable introduction, as good as Mr. Pickles was last week.
Anybody could ever be as good as you.
And we go down there to Mr. Chuggerwugger.
Hello, I'm Chugwugger. I play Gulliver, a young sorcerer who's recently joined the ranks of the Order of the Kraken, which is one of the 4 sorcery orders on Odys. He usually spends most of his time trying to impress the party and others that they meet, be it through his magic, intelligence and problem solving, his bravery or his wit. Deep down, he wants nothing more than to be liked and accepted by others. He's not seeking power, magic or gold. In Gulliver's eyes, a meaningful well done is the best reward in the world. And I shall pass on to Medivac.
I knew you'd do that. Hello everybody, I'm Medivac and I play Hessaret Khan. He's a nomad from the elusive grey ghost tribe. He parted ways with them he lost them basically a few years ago, and he's given up all hope of actually finding them again. So he's kind of adopted this group of ragtag fugitives as his tribe now. He burnt his arm with his group a while ago, and now he's a little bit afraid of Gulliver and what we are looking for, which are seeds. He likes to think of everybody as friends, because all his enemies are dead. So, that's the way that is.
And that's it.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah, basically, he fits. He loves being out in the wilderness. He's a very solitary character, and you'll find he can be a bit abrupt because being out in the wilderness when you're hunting, talking is the last thing you want to do. So he likes to say things as they come rather than beating around the bush, really. And with that, I shall pass on to Mr. Pickles.
Hi guys, I am Mr. Pickles, and tonight I will be playing Bartleby Fumus, who is our group's theist. My god/goddess that I follow is the white moon goddess Amriel. She's primarily giving visions and omens, the ability for Bartleby to act as a healer and a candle lighter, and a protector from the forces of evil. Bartleby is a naive kind of character, very caring, easily spooked. But he strongly believes in his goddess's teachings, and in this current scenario, he's very much believing that he has to go to this mountain for reasons I'm sure and will share shortly. But Bartleby's current goal is to survive and keep his allies safe. throwing the microphone as aggressively as I can at Longshanks.
Hi guys, my name is Longshanks CPG. Thank you to Mr. Pickles for giving me the big bruise on the side of my temple there from the microphone. I play the character Hengist. He's the mysterious armor-clad warrior from across the sea. At the moment, he seems to be a man of few words, but when he does speak, it's worth listening to him. His main sort of goals are to sort of like build fame and reputation of being a heroic and fabled warrior. And at the moment, he is currently bound to this group of people and the quest they're on to save the world, basically.
Sorry.
And I should pass it back to Inwills before he starts taking the mick out of
No, it was the way you said bound, as if you're sort of like forcefully attached to them. No. I'm bound by them.
In his defence, he did give up being in the guards to come with us. He left.
I forgot about that, actually. That seems ages ago.
It was a while ago.
I was just looking at I think this is episode 8 of Hessaret's Treasure. I was thinking, if you finish it tonight, then there'll be like 8 experience rolls coming. If you last another, whoever survives,
so close to getting a spell.
Yeah, or it'll be 9 if it goes on for another week. So it was something to look forward to. Now, before I tell everybody a quick synopsis, am I right in saying that we left the last adventure when you had just come out of the swamp? Is that right?
That's right. At some
We'll have to have those two stone things.
That's right.
Yeah. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay then, so the top and bottom of it is that the party are in search of 3 items that will allow them to somehow communicate or teleport or do something to a dragon called Cassini. Cassini holds the 5th seed, which can actually be used to control the other seeds. Gulliver has 1 seed, and the party gave the other seed to Bartleby's apprentice, Ben, who then trundled off with it and has never been seen since. The other 2 seeds appear to be controlling various beasts, wing beasts and fungus and things like that. And basically what's happening is that there's talk of a necromancer being around and being involved in plotting against Lindo, which is the main town of Odess, and the party and everything like that. So basically the characters set off to a small village on the western side of Odess called Advent. There they got involved in a murder mystery where they found that a gang of merchants stroke thieves stroke bandits had a disagreement with each other, and it turned out that two of them had half of them had one part of a map, while the other 2 had another part of the map. Where does this map lead? To Hessaret's Treasure, which is where the second part of the 3 items, the funeral mask, is rumoured to be. Bartleby has the first of the items round his wrist, which is slowly drawing out his life force. So the party are keen to find the final final piece. They have for some time been following the 2 maps. The first one, which is on the screen below, and they came down the river, past a stone that was shaped like a potato with a hole for it, across the wilderness, through 2 trees that looked like they were dead and old, through the dead swamp where they got haunted by unusual nightmares, and also encountered swamp devils, which they quite rightly kept distance from, since they can only be damaged by magical items. The second that was Tobias's part of the map, and in the second part of the map, which looks like this on the screen, what happened then was that the party were heading off. They had just come to these 2 stones at the other end of the swamp, having successfully navigated the swamp. You can see down at the bottom of the map there's a mountain or a hill and next to it is a symbol. And I think we left last week by Bartleby suddenly realizing that that was an ancient symbol for dragons. Dragons have not been known to exist in Odess for some time after Jasmine Claw, one of the famous beast handlers, actually slew the last one and killed it many centuries ago. So that's where we left the party. In that, coming out, I think you had a night's sleep, I think.
I believe.
Yes, I thought. Did we get the stones? Then that was it. We didn't have a sleep. We literally made it to the edge.
Okay then. So we will say therefore that you've had a night's sleep, and you've done your usual organisation of watches, etc. And you now are on the edge of the dead swamp. Nobody will have their any buffs up at the present moment in time. All those will have gone, so I'm just taking those off now. And then is there anything that anybody would like to say or do before we set off for the adventure?
I don't think so.
Fantastic.
Pretty good.
Okay then, so if you remember, this huge boulder that you sort of like came across had looked like it had been split in half, as if some great god had taken a giant hammer and chisel and just sort of like whacked into it. Okay, and you leave the swamp, and you know, after a good night's sleep without any biting mosquitoes, etc., you wake in the morning and everybody's mood is somewhat better. You know, you notice, you can tell this because number one, Tobias and Finiel are not giving so many evil glances at each other, and you do notice that Finiel actually smiles a little bit for once, which is quite surprising. Hengist finishes with his tea making and puts away his teapot, etc., and you can see that a plain stretches out before you. It's quite flat, it's quite open. It's unlike the shrub type of terrain that you journey through beforehand to get to the dead swamp. It's a lot more open, and in the distance, as the morning mist and fog dissipates, you can see that there's a hill, and it's called a mountain, but really and truly, think of it it's only about 175 meters tall, so it's not huge. It's not like Everest or anything like that, but it does look, as you look out at it, it does look incredibly steep sided. And the Finiel takes out the map, and which you've all got a copy of, and sort of like, not your characters, I mean your players, takes out the map and sort of like puts it out before you to sort of like say something about it. And she sort of like, you notice that Tobias has put his half of the map safely away into his armor. And she sort of like says, well, it looks like it's going to be quite a straightforward walk or hike across. I suggest myself and Laram take the lead now, and we can progress at rather a quick pace now that we don't have Tobias's horse slowing us down. As you might be aware, the distance hill is actually named the Nameless Hill, and that is where we will be journeying to.
Well, what I would say personally is things that look safe tend to not be, so let's just have a little bit of caution as well. We can make good speed, but let's just keep our eyes open.
Yeah, Finiel says, yes, I see that's not a problem. With this flat terrain, we can probably see for miles in either direction.
How long is it going to take us to get there?
We should get to the foot of the mountain in a couple of days.
Yes, just watch out for any traps or any flat ground can hurt many things. So let's yes, a couple of days we shall move out and watch out for game as well, because there is some meat along the way.
Okay, so Finiel, and let me just move your fire out the way. You can actually walk two abreast as Finiel and Laram do so. So if you'd like to sort of like organise yourself in some kind of marching order, if you tell me where Tobias and Ark will probably go at the back now. Because if you remember, they were at the front up until last time. So they will go in the back, and then Laram and Finiel will be at the front. So you can arrange yourselves.
Gulliver will walk.
Hessaret's just moving around. He's making me feel ill.
Sorry, I was going to go with Ark because we had a little bit of a repartee going.
Okay, so is the idea that you're going to walk in partners, or are you going to walk single file, or what?
Gulliver's going to walk by himself.
Okay.
Bartleby is very nervous during this entire trip and is going to try and keep as uncomfortably close to Hengist as possible.
Okay, so we'll put you two in the front there, and then like that. How does that hit you?
Perfect.
Excellent. So you head off for this 2-day march, and as Finiel suggested, you can see both sort of like north, east and south west very clearly, and once the morning mist has sort of like dissipated, you can see for miles in either direction. The terrain is somewhat unusual. Okay, it seems to be almost like tundra in its description, i.e. there's a lot of low plants. There seems to be no trees or shrubs or anything like that. And as you walk, you don't see... Hessaret, just roll a survival skill for me. Yeah, you don't even notice any path that anybody is following or anything like that. It just looks like Finiel has the Nameless Hill, as she's called it, set in her sights, and is almost like doing a straight path as the crow flies straight to it. And lo and behold, as you travel through the first day, you do notice that the mountain or the hill starts to demonstrate how big it is, and you do also notice that it's surrounded by smaller, lesser formed hills. So it's almost like as if there's lots of little ones and then this big one in the middle, as if it's almost like that's the sort of like cone of a hat, these little hills around the side of it. You do notice that as you start to see it, that there does seem to be some kind of mist hovering around at the top of it. It doesn't totally clear away at any point. It's as if it's there all the time. It's just like on the map of Advent. If you remember looking at that map, I'll just move you to it now. Do you remember that one? Yeah, it does actually have that circle of mist round it. So basically, so far, I'll just draw on a little route for you. You sort of like come to there, across the swamp, and are now heading straight down to the Nameless Mountain.
When we came out the other side of the swamp, where the stone that had been split in two was there any visible path going back into the swamp? Was it like a marker for an entrance to the
It was very similar to the two trees at the other side. So as you were coming out of the swamp, it almost like it looked like you were just walking on mushy, peaty soil, and then all of a sudden you noticed that it was more worn. and more. Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, my roll 20 just went absolutely blank. I'll just reboot it. It might be one of these nights that we have to play without roll 20.
Oh no.
And
Dice.org.
yeah, or I'll just think, right, that's it, roll 20, I'm moving to Fantasy Grounds. And that'll be interesting, because if you move to Fantasy Grounds, there'll be no rolls set up for you. You would actually have to roll the dice and actually say that's a hard success or a standard
success. Get my D100 out and roll it across the floor. Please stop!
Insert math chip.
Yeah. Yeah, so Gulliver, yeah, so it sort of like started out. So definitely the way across seemed to have been marked at the beginning and the end. And of course, in the middle, there was that strange mound that you found that was full of bones and weapons and cutlery and utensils. That seemed to be something. I think somebody cast some light on that at the end of the last adventure, or while you were there, I think. Yeah. So you stop for the first night, and the night goes completely uneventfully. You sort of like get together and you sit down, and is there anything that anybody would like to say to each other or anything like that while you're sat round the fire, or to go slightly away from the fire to sort of like have a discussion, anything like that? Now would be an opportune time to do it.
Well, to be fair, Hessaret will be going out and setting some more traps.
Okay, so you just roll your survival roll for me.
Come on, survival, help me out here.
Yeah, cool. So you set some traps. How many would you like?
Just 3.
3, yeah. So you set your 3 traps, hoping to capture some kind of rodent or something like that. There'll be nothing bigger than sort of like mice or rabbits or something like that. Yeah. Anybody else wish to do something? Hengist, of course, makes his tea as you all camp down. Anything else that anybody else would like to do?
No, I mean, during the whole day, Gulliver's been just walking by himself. He's been very quiet, hasn't tried to engage in conversation with anybody. And even when they get to the campsite, he's very much he does his bits round the camp, and then he has his food, and then if it's not his watch, he just pulls his blanket up near the fire and to go to sleep.
Okay. Bartleby and Hengist, anything that you would like to do or say?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Go for it.
Bartleby is going to be praying pretty loudly at every every stop, but particularly he's trying to exhort Amriel to enlighten him on whether the vision I saw of the treasure is a warning, or if it's just a vision of what will be.
Okay.
Would I be able to roll devotion, perhaps?
You certainly can, yeah.
Yeah. Let me go to the right page. Devotion.
Yeah, you get the feeling from Amriel that you almost like get the feeling that you have this image, okay, that almost like comes to you, because you're aware that Amriel often speaks to you through images, and you see before you a road, okay, and as you're walking along this road, the road forks and there's 2 paths, and basically you have a choice which path, and in your sort of like vision you sort of like ask Amriel which path is the right way to go, and which is truth and which is not, which is a lie, which is good, which is bad. This constant trying to figure out, the dichotomy between these decisions. And as you stand there and sort of like ponder the road split, you look down one road, and as you look down you see almost like an oasis, down that road. And down the other road, as you look, you see what appears to be a barren landscape. The soil is all cracked and dry, and a voice comes to you, and Amrael's voice, who likes to talk in riddles all the time, says to you that basically the choice is yours, although not everything appears as it seems. And that's where the vision ends, and that seems to be her response to you, Bartleby. What that means, we do not know.
I'm going to pray on that.
Okay.
For the rest of the break here, or
Cool.
the rest of our rest. I mean.
Yeah. Hengist, anything that you would like to?
Not particularly. So he would make tea as normal. So like do his watch as normal, and he's sort of like silently brooding about the things that Bartleby's already told him.
Cool. And then that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No worries. So the watches go as according to plan, how you normally set them up. You do notice for the first night ever that Ark and Laram appears to have a rest. And could you all make for me a perception roll, please? This is via your watches. If you just roll them, then I can give you... Oh, wow. Gulliver has the all-seeing eye. So has... Oh, look.
Not to steal your thunder. Sorry.
Yeah, but Gully rolls a 2. And then Bartleby goes ahead and rolls a 1. So people watching the stream,
Angus succeeded as well.
yeah, the stars. The stars mean that it's a critical roll.
I think everybody's succeeded. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and
That's first.
yeah, it is the first. And there's several things that you notice. The first thing that you notice is that Ark and Laram are actually sleeping. The second thing that you notice is that when they're sleeping, and even when Tobias or Finiel are sleeping, they don't seem to be getting restful sleeping. And whoever's actually awake, notice that even the other members of the party are having this restless sleep. And you all almost like reenact the visions that you saw when you were in the middle of the swamp. But the thing that keeps coming back to you over and over and over again were the words that you kept hearing, saying that you do not belong here. And it's almost like every dream that you have ends up with you either tripping or falling and then being towered over by either what appears to be a barbarian or one of the other men and women. If it's a barbarian, they're holding like an axe or a huge sword. And if it's like the men and the women, they're holding like rocks or small boulders in their hands. And they all at that point, you sort of like trip and try to crawl away in your dream, and you sort of like roll over and you see this person sort of like looming over you. And they literally say, you are not well, you do not belong here. And then at that point, they bring down their axe or their sword or their rocks or anything to your face. And that's when you come round, and then you sort of like turn over and wrap yourself back up in your blanket. And you notice that everybody seems to be having this reoccurring restless sleep. Whether or not Tobias and Ark and Laram and Finiel are having the same, you're not too sure. You do survive throughout the night, and you get back magic points, and of course your luck will be replenished in any case because it's the start of a next session.
Does Gulliver have exactly the same this time then? Because last time Gulliver was awake, he was actually...
Yeah, you don't have it when you're awake this time. You actually have it while you're sleeping.
Yeah, and nothing was said to him either.
Well, in which case you hear it now. You hear it, and I mean, it might be that other people have spoken about it, which has made it more real to you in your dream. But yeah, definitely, you do not belong here. What is this repeating phrase that you all wake with it very clear in your head. Hessaret, your traps did quite well. There's one small mouse in that probably you won't bother with. It's dead now, but other animals with it. There seems to be some kind of a rabbit, or might be a hare in, which you can cook and get ready. So just roll that cooking skill while you're doing it. I forgot to tell you the other thing that you notice. So what? Have I got a cooking skill coming from Hessaret? Is he still there? Oh, is it not on your character sheet?
He's muted. He's just talking to himself at the moment.
I am. I'm talking to myself. It's the most intelligent conversation I've had all day. Yeah, sorry, 22 I've got. 36 is my...
Oh, cool.
I should put it on my skills sheet.
Yeah, so you managed to cook the rabbit. So the one thing that you all notice throughout the night is what appears to be a shadow that passes across the camp. It's almost as if the moon is shining down on you, because it's quite an open, cloudless night. And on each of your watches, you notice that at one point it's as if something flies or a cloud moves and blocks out the moonlight for an instant as it sort of like passes over the camp. And you all see this with your exceptional rolls, and you all sort of like look up to sort of like see what it is, because even in the darkness, because the moonlight is quite strong, it really sort of like resounds and you really see it very clearly. And when you sort of like look up, you only see the moon. The only thing that Bartleby and Gulliver, since you crit your rolls, I'm going to give you a little bit of extra information. Okay, because you critted your rolls, so that'll come to you via Discord.
I think Bartleby already knows, or has his mind made up what this cloud is made of.
Okay, hang on, I just need to type it out and then copy it and paste it to two people. There you go. You both should have it now.
Hessaret will probably think it's just a blink, when you blink your eyes and a little bit of dimness. Yeah. So he's going to keep that mouse for bait for traps for the next time.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's dead. It would either be that or just throw it away and let the crows eat it.
Some carrion, I'll come and get it. That'll be food.
Okay, so you set off the next morning, not as refreshed as you would have hoped, and you head in a direct line towards the Nameless Hill or Nameless Mountain. And what you notice as you get closer and closer and closer to it is that, as well as a series of hillocks round the base of it, you notice that there also appears to be some kind of forest type vegetation. There seems to be trees. They're not like the dead swamp trees that you saw, which were very spindly and blighted. These look quite lush and quite healthy. And as you pass into the forest, you just sort of like walking quite normally, and as you get closer and closer to the mountain, you suddenly find yourself walking into a clearing. You can see that the mountain towers above you here. It's really, really high. The sides of the mountain are incredibly steep. So steep that you probably can't walk up those mountains, the side, unless you find some kind of trail or you wish to get climbing gear or something like that. What you do notice in the clearing, however, is a huge lake. It's not a pond, it's a lake, and it's fed at the far end by a waterfall that is cascading down the mountain from about a quarter of the way up. Okay, it seems to spring straight from inside the mountain. It just seems to come straight out, and just cascades over the edge of the mountain and just sort of like plummets to the ground. So just to give you a bit of a visual representation. So if that's my mountain, then the waterfall literally comes out sort of like that.
What are we doing this on?
It's on this one.
All right. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to get it drawn first. Yeah. So can you see it literally springs out of halfway up this hill, and it doesn't look like there's. While you're just stood down looking up, almost like marveling at it, it doesn't look like there's a huge entrance or anything behind that waterfall. It just literally seems to be like a crack in the mountainside that is actually sort of like spewing out. It almost looks like something coming out of somebody's mouth and cascading down the side. The water is it's crystal clear. You can actually look into it and see the base of the lake, and it looks like this has been cascading out for some time, and there's sort of like a waterfall cut, sort of like delve in the middle. So as the water's been coming out, it just cracked the rocks through total pressure, and it's not incredibly deep. You figure you would have to swim as you get closer to the waterfall, but the outside of it is quite shallow. There seems to be nothing in there at all. There seems to be no animals, no fish. There also seems to be no vegetation in it. There seems to be vegetation around the outside of the pond, or the lake, sorry, but nothing in it. So there's no weeds or duckweed or anything like that. It just seems to be crystal. At the edges, and from the middle out of the edges, it's incredibly calm. It almost looks like it's a sheet of glass near the edges. Obviously, by the waterfall, it's very agitated, and there's, even when you arrive in the clearing, there's this fine mist of water in the area. It is quite noisy, but you can hear absolutely fine, but there is quite a background noise.
So where it's coming out of the hill, the mountain, is it coming out with force, or is it just cascading down? Can we see the rock face behind the water or not?
No, you can't see any. It literally seems to come straight out from the mountain, and you think it probably does come out with force, as if there's but the force of a huge depth of water which is building up pressure behind it. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So
it's possible that where the water is by the side of the mountain, that there could be something behind that.
Yeah, but if there is something behind it, it's incredibly small. The actual gap that it's coming out of, you figure, is only about from up to a man's waist or a woman's waist from the ground. And it's almost like there's a narrow hole and everything's being pushed out of it, as if there's a pressure of water above it that's causing it to do.
And you mentioned that we came through some trees to sort of like get here. How long had we been sort of like traveling through those before we?
Yeah, a good couple of hours. And that was very lush, and if you remember, out here it was very tundra, the vegetation. Actually in the wood, there's things like bracken and fern, and you can even hear some birds tweeting, which you actually haven't heard for a long time, and it makes a really nice change from the buzz of insects that you normally hear.
Did Finial and Lavan seem to be following any type of path, or were they just sort of like
No, just like
trailblazing?
yeah, just like I said before, they just seem to be making a one-way track to the mountain. There doesn't seem to be, Hessaret didn't see any trail at all, and they just seem to have come through that broken boulder, set the mountain sort of like dead ahead, and have just literally walked towards it. They haven't detoured at all. The map actually shows a sort of like a yeah, but they don't. Well, it didn't seem that they were following a trail at all. It just looked like they were going in one straight line.
He says no vegetation in the water, but there's vegetation outside. How close to the water does the vegetation go from the outside?
Yeah, right the way up to it, but doesn't go into it. So what you would normally expect is sort of like vegetation going into reeds.
Into the water. That's right. Yeah.
And it doesn't. It literally stops. It's as if somebody's taken one of those cutting edge tools and sort of like carved it out. But the vegetation that you're standing on at the moment is incredibly lush, and it's spongy, but not as in the dead swamp spongy. This is sort of like spongy. Yeah, you know, and you do notice that Ark and Tobias and Laram and Finiel have sort of like taken their boots off, and they sort of like
toes.
Yeah, and they've actually sat down by the edge of the pond, the lake, and dangled their feet into the water, you know, almost like as relief.
And the feet haven't melted yet then?
No,
That's good.
They've got quite a look of on their faces as they almost like lay back.
Wonderful. That's where my next question was, to chuck something and see if it's like acidic or
no.
But that's fine. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what's the terrain like round the after the actual pond bit of the water? Is it then trees again heading round the side of this mountain hill?
You mean
heading round this way and
so the lake goes right the way up to the foot of the mountain.
Yeah.
You can see that from either side there's a bit of gap, you know, where the trees haven't encroached right the way up to the pond, and then you notice that round the mountain down either side is sort of like a 10-meter gap, you know, that you could probably walk around, but the lake itself goes right the way up to the hill.
Okay, so Gulliver wants to walking around the edge of the lake. He wants to walk round to where the lake meets the mountain.
Yeah, so just to let you know that if you go off and walk right the way around there, you will be a considerable distance away from the rest of the party, because this is a lake, you know. It's you probably would still be able to be seen, but you would look quite small on the distance. It's not sort of like a pond. It is like a massive lake.
It's more like a lagoon.
Yeah, it's almost like an oasis where it is, but you figure it must be.
Is it sort of like the size of the lake that we met near where we first encountered the reptiles when we had to go to that?
Yeah, Ubin Falls. Yeah,
yeah,
it's about the same size as that. You know, the only thing is it doesn't look as deep as Ubin Falls, and Ubin Falls doesn't.
I misinterpreted how big it was. I thought it was only sort of like a smallish.
It's bigger than what I've drawn.
Yeah.
If I was going to put you guys on there, then you would probably be like that big.
Right.
Okay, so you would be very small. Yeah, so Tobias and Ark and Laram and Finiel, you notice that they've got their feet in and they're sort of like washing various articles of clothing in the water. Okay, so guys, what would the rest of you like to do?
What time of day And have we stopped for lunch or
No, this is the evening camp.
right?
So you've sort of like got here.
I'll spread around some rabbit
Yeah.
for everybody.
So yeah, so you can light a fire and sort of like set off food and tea being made. Yeah. What?
So
Anything else that you would like to do?
No, I mean Gulliver will go and gather some wood, but it's obvious that we're going to be camping here until morning before.
Yes. Yes.
day,
Yeah.
Looking for a way in. Had we only heard bird noises, we hadn't heard anything larger.
No. It just seems to be a well-oiled forest.
I'll put some traps down as well. Sorry, about 3 again, if that's all right.
Yeah. Well, your survival. Well. Cool. Yeah. What would everybody else like to do?
Bartleby would like to use the glass bottle he had purchased before this adventure,
Yeah.
or during this adventure, I think. Was it in Advent that I got the glass bottle?
It certainly was. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to fill it with some water from this lake. A little bit of ways, like from where everybody's washing themselves, but otherwise I'm going to fill it up.
Yeah. Okay then. Could you make for me a perception roll?
I would love to. Perception. Could I use a point of luck to reverse?
Yes, you can. So I'm going to tell you, but I'm assuming that you will pass on this information as the evening progresses, not right at the same moment, but you sort of like go a little bit further around from Laram, where they're splashing around with their feet, and you sort of like take out your glass bottle and you sort of like kneel down by the edge of the lake, and you sort of like you do that sensible thing that you actually push the bottle down and let out all the air, so it's not filling in from the top, just in case there's things on the surface. It's taking the good water from below, and while you're there, you actually look down. What is actually your perception skill? 28. Oh no, so it won't be a crit. You sort of like look down and you notice very clearly something, and you've probably seen things like this before. They're very white, and you notice several bones in the water. Some of them you figure roll your healing roll.
Oh no.
You can't reverse that. Yeah, you notice that some of them seem to be quite lengthy. They appear to be a lot larger than that of a human. Some look about human size. Some of them are snapped in two. You can't see any skulls. It tends to be all bone, and they're not in a pile or anything like that. They just seem to be scattered around, and you sort of like filling up your water and think, what's that? Oh, that's a bone. And once that sort of like clicks into your mind, you start to see another one and another one and another one. They seem to be at this side, the far side of the lake. So if I was to sort of like just show, they tend to be sort of like that side of it. There's nothing where they were dangling their feet or anything like that. There was nothing there at all. And you sort of like came a little bit further around than that, but you can definitely see them, and they're definitely these are probably the purest whitish bones you've ever seen. Obviously the water is doing something very positive to them because they're keeping so clean.
Yeah, well, you're right. I'm gonna continue filling my water bottle, and then I'm gonna make my way back and nervously tell the group.
Yeah, cool.
There's bones in the water, guys.
Bones, really?
Yeah, a lot of them.
Bartleby, are you saying this loud enough, or in the company for Tobias, Ark, Laram, and Finiel to hear?
If they're going to eavesdrop, then they can probably easily hear me.
Okay, cool.
Well, I think those explain the vegetation.
I think the visions from my goddess are maybe pointing us towards death and destruction. Great monster might live here. If only.
Or it could be that. Well, this is the first water that we've seen for a long time, for at least 2 days traveling. Or even before that, because we didn't see much water, drinkable water in the swamp, did we?
No, there was no drinkable water.
I don't know what lies beyond the mountain, but don't animals normally congregate round suitable drinking water?
That would make them all perfect targets for a giant hungry monster that blots out the sky with its girth. Gulliver, I think we're sitting right on the doorstep of a monster's house.
I was thinking any predator rather than just wolves would probably seek out the water hole, because they would know that other animals were going to be here.
But why would wolves dump bones into the water? They would be contaminating their own drinking source.
And there's no skulls out there. All I'm seeing are limbs and maybe fingers, maybe bird bones mixed in. But there's some bigger ones. And I don't know. We're in a lot of danger here, especially for camping out in the opening.
Maybe there's something in the water that attracts animals and brings the. I don't know. I mean, there are certain. I don't know, creatures like that maybe can come out of the water and drag the things into the water and eat them.
Whereabouts did you find the bones, Bartleby?
I'm going to point out over to the area where I was getting water from.
Yeah, cool.
And elaborate where I kind of saw the bones, and like you did with the drawing.
But
yeah, if anybody...
The other explanation would be that they're actually coming from within the mountain then, rather than being down here to begin with.
Like a giant monster has taken the bodies into the mountain and eats them, and then shoves them into the waterfall, and their bodies spray out. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Well, apart from the skulls, which it's probably keeping as a bed.
Maybe the mountain is eating people. My God, my friends.
Hazra, Gulliver, when Hazra says maybe the mountain is eating them, you notice that Tobias was just about to drink some of Hengist's tea, and you say that, and he goes poof, like that, and so like looks at you as if to say, an animated mountain. Are you drinking the same tea as I'm drinking, Master Hessaret?
To be fair, my friend, I don't drink Hengist's tea. His heart is in the right place, but sadly his tea will not touch my belly at the moment.
Tobias says, why? What is wrong with the tea?
It doesn't have enough yak's milk in it.
It has no milk at all. We're rather short on yaks on this. It doesn't have side effects, Mr. Hessaret, does it?
I don't know, because I have not tried it. I'm one of the fortunate few. Or unfortunate, you never know. It could be beautiful tea.
You notice that
the milk?
Tobias sort of like looks down at it, and then he goes, "Oh, I'm quite sleepy. Oh," I tipped it out, and sort of like puts his cup down.
If only I had some milk, and then I'd be able to try it.
You notice that Finiel's been talking to Laram, and they seem to be whispering something backwards and forwards to each other. And then at the end of the conversation, Laram stands up, and Finial says Laram's going to go and try to find out if there's any way up the mountain. One of you can join him if you wish. And when nobody replies,
I'll go.
Okay, yeah. So and Ark also volunteers to go.
If Ark decides to go, then I'll go with Ark.
Okay, so I'm just moving everybody who's going over to here, so I know who's actually left in the on the camp. Yeah, so they sort of like head off, and as they're heading off, the rest of you sort of like remain at the campsite. Tobias is on one side. You're almost like it was almost like quadrants. Finial looks at both Bartleby and Hengist, but not at Tobias, and sort of like says, "So, what do you think we'll find in Hessaret's treasure hoard?"
Death.
Oh, death will only be for, well, maybe undead. If it's a tomb, we might find some unsavory beasts.
Unsavory beasts?
Well, you know, like those who have not yet passed to the great god's plane of afterlife. Maybe they lurk still. Maybe there'll be some of Hessaret's barbarian horde up there. She looks quite excited about that. You're not too sure whether or not it's because there might be a fight going out, or whether or not she has a certain thing for barbarians. You think of Laram and think maybe the second one is quite plausible. And she sort of like says, "But I'm sure Tobias will help us out." And Tobias sort of like goes, "Oh, I have Ark to do my fighting. I will not be indulging in any sort of fighting at all. There's far more important people around here, like the great Hengist here. He looks like he's very armoured and ready to go."
Hengist could slay a dragon.
Really? Have you,
And
Master
in
Hengist?
your map.
Master Hengist, have you slayed a dragon?
Not before, but well, you know, I wouldn't not try.
They have. I read a strange book once that was possibly the account of the great Jasmine Claw and her fight with the final battle with the last dragon. It was quite. I think a bard probably took artistic license over it. I mean, who could actually breathe fire, which equates to a volcanic eruption from a local volcano? And I mean, can people really, dragons really stand with 1 foot onto a person and squash them flat? So much so that you actually hear the bones crack, followed by the slight squish of blood pouring out everywhere. I mean, I'm sure that's just artistic license.
Have you not seen a horse step on a mouse or a rat? It's a similar sort of thing, I would have thought.
Well, I find that mice and rats tend to be rather quick and tend to avoid situations being stepped on by a horse. But I bet you, Hengist, you revel in that danger, don't you?
That is what I've been brought up on.
Oh, I look forward to your final stand. If we do meet a dragon, it will be a noble fight for you against it. Please slay it for us. And I'm sure I can pay a respectable bard to sing your song of a ballad of your sad demise, your wonderful victory over a fantastic beast, I'm sure.
Brave, Sir Hengist.
Hengist doesn't say anything at that. He just nods.
Yeah, and Finiel gives one of her smirky smiles. Laram, Ark, Hessaret, and Gulliver return at this point. And could everybody please roll for me an insight roll? Bartleby, easy. Hessaret, very easy. Standard. Okay. So when you come back, the party relates back to you that slightly round the corner in this direction, where I'm pinging now, there appears to be a trail that leads up round the mountain. It doesn't actually come to your side of the mountain that you're looking at all, ever. It seems to be almost like that, like the path that you came down from. The important thing is it's done in such a way that it curves around the mountain and then goes back on itself, so almost like zigzagging up the mountain. However, the gap between the trail and the lower down trail is quite significant, and it would look like if anybody fell, then it would be almost like death, almost like instantly. The other thing that you do notice as you go along is that the actual path, the actual trail, should I say, is only about 1.5 meters long, wide. So it's not a huge. You'll probably be walking in single file. This is what everybody relates back to you. The other thing that you do notice is that it's quite full of things. There's every now and again there's an odd boulder that looks like it's rolled down the side of the mountain and landed on the trail. And sometimes there's those weird plants that, if this was the pathway where you would walk, it almost like comes out this way, and there's sort of like a horizontal bush there, if that makes sense. So it's not completely devoid. You also do notice that at the bottom of the trail it's quite flat and quite clear or stuff, but as it progresses upwards you notice that these obstacles become more apparent and more numerous. You couldn't see right the way up to the top at all.
Were we down at the bottom of this trail going up?
Correct.
Was there any sort of like visible signs of marking it as the entrance to the trail, or was it just...
No, it just literally starts at the base. It's literally just comes down the side of the mountain and just sort of like starts there. And there's no sort of like marking, there's no trees, there's no boulders, there's nothing like that. It just looks like it's the way up, but if you excuse the word, it is on the backside of the mountain. So if nobody had gone off and looked around the back, you wouldn't have seen the trail at all.
Right.
Your insight rolls, by the way, Bartleby and Gulliver, you needed, just so you know, you needed an easy or very easy roll. Right, so you do notice, Bartleby and Gulliver, that Laram looks quite pale and almost like nervous. And when he comes back, he sort of like whispers something to Finiel. And Finiel sort of like says, "Don't be stupid, you'll be fine." Like that.
Do we overhear what he whispers or not?
No, you hear Finiel's reply though. But you and Bartleby sort of like look at him, and it's the first time that he's looked anxious about something. And you can see that he's sort of like fiddling with bits of his armour, and he keeps looking up the mountain and looking back down, and he's not paying attention to things around him. He's sort of like looking down, and every now and again you see him sort of like wipe his palms on a bit of his armor or on the grass, almost as if removing something from them. And the most telltale sign you can see is that every now and again he looks up the mountain, and you see just by him looking up that almost like makes him more fidgety.
Gulliver's going to say to Finiel, he's going to say, Finiel, have either you or Loran been here before?
And she turns around and says, no, this is the first time we have ever followed the map beyond the dead swamp. It is obvious that some people have looked at one part of the map before the rest of us. And she looks at Tobias, because if you remember, Ark almost like knew the way through to the central island. Obviously, some people were doing embarking on this quest a lot earlier than the rest of us.
In Gulliver's eyes, does she seem to be telling the truth?
You can roll an inside check if you wish. You think she's telling the truth. She doesn't look like she's been here before. And just, yeah, they seemed very impressed by the landscape. It wasn't as if they were coming home, you know, or anything like that. It looked like they had seen it, or looking at it for the first time.
Gulliver's going to push it further. He's going to say, it's just that Loran seems almost afraid of something.
Loran sort of like turns around and gives you quite a stern look, as if to say, how dare you even suggest that he, almost like this huge Loran the Large, would be afraid of anything. And Finiel sort of like almost like puts an arm on his shoulder to calm him. He seems to be in a very agitated state, and he sort of she turns to you and says, oh, Loran's only afraid. And Loran sort of like looks at her, and she says, sorry, he's not good with heights.
Oh.
Hearing that,
Maybe there's another way. Maybe there's another way in. Maybe the trail is just to put people off going up there. Maybe we should wait until the morning and maybe check behind the waterfall first and see whether or not there's another entrance behind there.
She says, yes, we can try that. Hessaret, did you? Yeah.
Yes. Hearing that, Hessaret will go to Loran and say, don't worry, my friend, it's quite simple. When going up heights, I was afraid of heights too. Just look straight at the floor and put one foot in front of the other. Never look down. It's very important. Don't look down the edge.
Over the edge, yeah.
Over the edge, look straight ahead.
I was going to say, yeah. So don't look down at the trail.
You look at the trail, look where you're walking, don't look down the edge.
Okay.
You may fall. It plays tricks with your mind.
He sort of like scoffs and makes a sort of like a hut sound, and sort of like distance himself from the rest of the group slightly with his back to you. Okay, so you all settle down, usual watches happen, and you sort of like organise yourselves. And then in the morning, as suggested by Gulliver, everybody agrees that they should check right the way around the mountain and also behind the waterfall. So you head off after breakfast, and you manage to cover the whole round the base of the mountain and by the waterfall by about lunchtime. And basically the waterfall drops straight down. There's no cave or anything behind it at all. It just literally comes straight down the side of the mountain and cascades into the lake. And you go right the way round the base of the Nameless Hill, and the only way up it appears to be this trail. And even the rest of it, because of the sheerness of the sides, you couldn't even climb up it, you know, without some kind of climbing gear. It might be possible to go up it via spells, or magic. But at the present moment in time, it looks like the only way up is the trail.
And it's wide enough for one person.
Well, it's 1.2, 1.5 meters wide. So if you think about it, I think my scales on here, that is like the width of one of your tokens. It's about 5 foot. So you would take it off. Yeah. So it'll literally be single file.
Okay. And from what we saw of it yesterday, does it look like we might have to clear bits of it, or
what you probably decide is that it's not necessarily the case that you'll have to clear something. It's more the case that you'll have to maybe move round something, so if there's a boulder in your path, then you might have to move round it, either going closer to the mountain edge or closer to the edge that is the sheer drop on the opposite side.
right? Okay.
Hasriel quite say, Laurent, because you're a little bit worried about the heights, I think you should go last, because if you make a mistake while going up the hill, you might take the person behind you down with you. So at least this way, if you do make a mistake, you will be last, and you will not hurt anybody else when you fall.
He sort of like Finiel looks at you and says, "But what happens if he has one of his attacks?"
He has attacks. What attacks does he have?
When he's up heights, he tends to freeze now and again. I think your plan is in all good nature, Hessaret, but I think the best thing would be is that wherever he is, if I go behind him, I can give him reassuring words in order to get up here.
To coax him on, I see. Well, if you both go at the back, then that way he doesn't slow us down, perhaps. I mean, maybe... The thing is, if he freezes in front of us, we will have to stop, and then maybe trouble.
Yeah. Tobias looks at you, Hessaret, and says, "Are you planning on tying us all together with a rope like you did in the swamp?"
No, I won't do that, because if a rope attached to somebody, if you fall, we all fall. It's not a good thing. At least in the swamp, if you get lost, we know where you are.
Tobias says, "You are very well versed in the wilderness. Maybe I could suggest that you take the lead up the pathway."
I can certainly try.
I
will do my best for you.
I think that would be a very good idea. And he sort of like moves Hessaret to the lead. Okay, so where does everybody else want to go?
Am I able to go behind Finiel, or does she?
No, you can go way behind if you wish.
I'd like to pray. Sorry.
Yeah, is it a spell casting that you're doing?
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you though, Chuckawooga. If you had more to say.
No, I was done.
Okay, before you do your praying, don't roll it yet. Can we get the rest of the marching order sorted first?
Absolutely. I want to linger near the back so that... actually, I want to go to an open space. I want to try and avoid being around people in case a dragon comes to kill me.
Okay, so Hessaret's first, then Hengist. Is it then... Ark and Tobias have to go together. So it depends how many people you want in between Ark and Tobias and Laram and Finiel at the moment.
I'll just... If it's something like that, that'd be perfect.
Okay, so and then Tobias... Gulliver, you'll be bringing up the rear, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay then, cool. Bartleby, what would you like to do?
I don't know if I'd have minutes for this, but if not, just let me know. I wanted to pray for the perseverance to make it up this mountain and not lose sight of the goal, acknowledging that I'm going to die.
Yeah, you can have minutes to do it, so you can just be an easy roll on your exhort.
Excellent.
No,
if I fail, I'm probably going to use a point of luck.
Yeah.
Point of luck if I can.
Yeah. You can just reverse it to 29, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one that.
I can't lose any more fatigue levels.
Yeah. That's this one. Yeah. Cool. Okay then. Is there anything else that anybody would like to do before you head up or across the mountain?
Oh yes, did I check my traps?
Yeah, there was a rabbit in one of them. It looked very healthy and very plump. A matter of fact, it looks like it's been enjoying the fair vegetation of the forest.
We'll save that for later.
Okay, I'm just going. Anybody else wish to do anything else?
No.
Nope.
One thing that Gulliver's going to do, though, when he's going up, he's always going to make sure that he's going to try to hug the mountain side of the wall rather than the.
Yeah. So the only time that you wouldn't be able to do that is when you come across a boulder that is by the wall, and then you would have to go around. Okay, then. Could you all make for me, please, athletics checks for the first third of the mountain pass? Hessaret and Gulliver.
I want to use one.
You want to use a point of luck, Hessaret?
Same, yes, please.
Okay. Then. So the first up the first third of the mountain, you notice that at several points it's very hard to walk up this mountain, mainly because of the unevenness of the trail. You know, as you've got further and further up the trail, there's more boulders and rocks all around it, and at several times Hessaret and Gulliver, you both stumble slightly over the thing, but manage to sort of like think, no, I'm fine, and sort of like step back slightly as things are happening, and you sort of like carry on for a good an hour and a half. And you're on to the second sort of like the middle third, if you like, of your mountain pass, when something happens. Now, the first thing I would like you to do for me, please, is that I would like you to roll a perception test.
Is that different from a perception roll? Refresh my memory.
It's just a skill. You should have a skill that says perception.
Yeah, sorry, no, that's fine. When he said test, I was like,
okay, so the only people who can act straight away with this is Hengist and Hessaret. Okay, taking your initiative bonus, your actual initiative. What's each of your initiative?
7.
7. And Hessaret, what's yours?
my initiative without. I don't have an initiative bonus, but it's 11.
Okay, then, cool. So, what happens is that you're almost like embarking on the second half of the or the middle third, sorry, of the mountain going up, and you almost like all of you hear a sound. And the sound is of, it's almost like a screech. It's almost like a wah, like that. And you suddenly notice soaring quite majestically, coming around from this side of the mountain, soars a terrific beast. It is gigantic. It's absolutely gigantic. Now, just to give you a rough indication of what it looks like, I'm just going to pull across for you a picture. Okay, I can only find a picture of it fighting, so forgive me. For this, let me just upload it for you. If you can remember how to upload.
If not, we don't mind if you just want to draw it on.
No, it honestly.
In pastel.
I haven't got the time to make it three-dimensional enough for you. Now, I just want to make it very clear at this stage that the only two people who will be able to act in a second will be Hessaret and Hengist, okay? Because they succeeded in their... I'll make it bigger for you. Can you see it?
I can't actually work out which bit's the...
Shut the front door.
Where's the head? Has it got something in its head?
That's the head. No, it's just got its mouth open. It's
That's
got
a claw.
Yeah, that certainly is a claw. This
That's
is
a tail going down there.
yeah. This seems to be a guy with his shield up. This is somebody's arrow drawn. Okay, so that comes round the angle, round the side of the mountain. It seems to have its claws outwards. It's almost as if it knows that it's actually going to be doing something. And as it swoops round, Hengist, you notice that it's actually got its claws aiming straight at Tobias. It's coming directly down into him. So Hessaret and Hengist, what would you like to do?
Throw him a spear.
Okay. Hengist, what would you like to do?
Hengist is going to, as best he can, considering how narrow the ledge is, he wants to put himself between himself and Tobias.
There's no room to actually put yourself in between the ledge where Tobias is. If you can see, there's just a drop on the other side, so you can knock him out the way, or you can stand next to him. It's completely up to you.
Roughly what angle is it coming in at? Is it coming, you said it's coming round, but is it coming round, is it coming sort of like straight at Tobias, or is it circling around via Hengist?
It's come round, and now it's heading in like that, as if it's sort of like coming straight into Tobias with its claws, its talons outstretched.
Hengist is he wants to shout a warning to Tobias, and then he wants to move as close as he can next to Tobias. So he's going to out the corner of the eye, he sees this thing, and he shouts, "Tobias, watch out!" And then he's going to sort of like turn, and he's going to move as quick as he can to get as close to Tobias and the creature to ready to get him in.
Okay, so is your action?
I can only do one of those two.
Well, I'm a bit. Is your action just to get as close to Tobias as possible?
Yeah, if I can shout, then he'd like to shout the warning.
Okay then. So Hessaret, roll your spear hit, please.
Yes.
Just to let you know, this will be a difficult shot.
I was going to say, what Hessaret probably do is be tracking it as it comes across,
Yeah.
or holding, isn't it, and then just trying to get the best shot.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, so you launch it, you track it as it comes around, and you launch it towards the beast. The beast doesn't see the spear coming. It looks like it's focused purely on Tobias. Would you like to do for me, please? Two things you need to do. The first thing that you need to do for me is a hit location.
No, first thing is special.
Special, yeah.
Special. Impale, please.
Yeah, it's not a critical because it was a formidable roll that you needed, so you just get in one. Impale, yeah, brilliant, thank you. So
roll is going to be
roll location.
Location 15.
15 is actually in its right wing.
Perfect.
Okay, nice one. So roll 2 lots of damage and tell me your pick the biggest one.
Which will have a throne. There we go. That's the one. That one. and that one. Is that roll twice?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll go for the first one, please.
8 points of damage. Yeah, so that's its right wing. And that takes that down to that. So you chuck your spear to its wing, and you manage to avoid those bony sort of like fingers that down. But it still seems to, when you lob it, you expect it to almost like go straight through. It is impaled, but only just. It seems to have some kind of protective armor against it. Hengist, you move next door to Tobias, and this beast does fly straight down with hands and claws extended to Tobias. I'm just going to roll my to hit roll. Oh no, not that one. This one. Yeah, it flies down, and it comes close, and you see it, Hengist. It's literally about to, as you stand next to Tobias, it just sweeps through. You get this wonderful waft of wind as the reptile sort of like back pedals its wings in order to sort of like buffer it to make it stop, and it reaches out its claws and extends it to Tobias. And as you're stood there next to him, Hengist, you suddenly think, oh my god, it's going to grab Tobias. And just at the last moment, just at these claws about to attack, you suddenly see Tobias flying, almost like pushing into you. Can you make either? You're going to have to make an athletics check for me, please. Yeah, so you manage to get out the way this way as Tobias rolls, is pushed towards you. He is hang on a minute. He's quite lucky in his athletics roll as well, and he seems to stumble into you, and you, in the gap that is missing where Tobias was, you notice that Ark is there, and the claws don't grab onto Tobias, they grab onto Ark instead. I'm just going to roll. I got a hit location. It sort of like grabs onto its arm, its right arm, or its left arm, its trailing arm, and it bites him. So it grabs him with his claws first. It sort of like grabs on with its first claw, and then it grabs on with its second claw, doing a grand total of 9 points of damage as it sort of like sinks in its claws into Ark. And you notice, Bartleby, you can see this as well, that whole lot of blood just sort of like spurts from Ark's arm as these talons seem to sink in and almost like trap his arm to his torso, and the claws seem to extend themselves, and you can see these talons just sort of like going into the into Ark. And I said before that this reptile has done that great buffering back off the wings, and it's got hold of Ark now, and it turns away from Tobias and you, Hessaret, where your spear came, and it reels away towards you, Bartleby, and suddenly, taking Ark in its talent still, actually starts to head away. I'm going to use Ark as the token to where the beast actually is. Okay, so the beast is now here. It's in the air. Okay, so it's not on the ground, and it's actually flying away, and you can hear Ark screaming as it's just sort of like lifted up, Okay, can we now have... let me just change the turn order. I just need to get rid of you guys. Ark can't fight. He's all right. Right. And can you roll your initiatives, please?
That's fine, guys. I'll go last.
Oh, never mind. Gulliver, you're going 17. Okay then. So Finiel goes first, and she just sort of like lets out a scream as she sees Ark being carried away and sort of like flattens herself. Gulliver, you see this. She flattens herself against the wall. Laram goes next, and he actually hurls one of his... if you remember, he carries javelins. Yeah, he hurls one of his javelins at the beast. He gets a 73 and misses, and it just sort of like goes flying off, and the reptile just glides slightly to one side as the javelin comes through. Hessaret, you're up.
I'm going to dither, please.
Okay, so so I just wanted to put my initiative on 6. Plus 6. 11. He goes after you. So
who's that?
This will be that's the reptile.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just going to put it on I'll put it on like this. He goes on 11. Yeah. Okay. So Hessaret dithers. Gulliver, you're up.
So can Gulliver, at the moment, if Ark was to fall, would he actually still land on the...
It would be debatable, because what I would do is roll for it, because the reptile is actually moving at the present moment in time. As he's passing you, he's over this bit in front of you. If the beast carries on a fraction of a millimeter or whatever, Ark would, if the beast dropped him, he would plummet over the edge.
Okay. I'm going to...
It's just you don't really have time to sort of like look around and think this could work, this could not work, and then
I'm going to have to cast the spell, and then I'm going to have to probably hold it until another time.
Okay then. Which spell are you casting?
So I am casting that.
Right. Okay then. So you're just holding it then, yeah?
Yeah, well, because it's going to take another round to. It's going to take another combat turn to cast.
Okay, got you.
But then I'm going to have to. I want to take into account a couple of things before I release.
Okay, so you'll start casting it on combat round 1, turn 1. Yeah. Brilliant. Hengist, you're up. You are stood up, Hengist.
Hengist is going to draw his sword. That's about all he can do.
Okay, Bartleby, you're up.
Okay, Bartleby is going to jump into action, but not jump
If
at all.
Bartleby runs to the edge now and jumps, could he land on the dragon's back?
Wielding my club, just no. That's I'm not going to do any jumping because my athletics is not impressive to anybody. I'm going to pray for Amriel to light a fire of justice. The spell that I want to do is this one. The hand-sized target area would be the spear that is stabbed into the wing, the hand-sized area on the spear being closest to the wing part.
Okay.
That's what I want to do. If
Yeah, so you're going to try to ignite the shaft of the land of the spear, yeah?
It's
Yeah.
touch though, isn't it?
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it might be.
The
Oh, it
range
is.
is
Okay, yeah, I
touch.
couldn't do
Yeah.
that. Never mind. I'm gonna pray instead for Ark's soul.
Okay, brilliant. So this is my role now. So as Ark sort of like screaming like anything, and you can hear him as this great beast sort of like pulls him away, further away from the edge of the cliff, and you can hear all of a sudden the scream is cut off. 1 minute he's almost like an inhuman cry, and as it's flying, this beast lifts Ark towards its mouth, and it cranes its head, and it just comes straight down in order to bite Ark. With a 16, that definitely hits, and he's going to do some damage.
What did you get? A 16?
Yeah.
Can I use a point of luck to reverse those?
You can only ask me. Well, yes, you can reverse by all means. It would be a 61 then, obviously. Duh.
Yeah.
Are you using a point of luck?
Yeah, I will do.
Yeah, cross it off then. Yeah, 61 still hits.
Right.
Roll. Right, this is the bite damage. 8 points. Plus 6 points. Plus 4 points. So he does the reptile clamps its jaws over Ark's head, and sort of like almost like makes a sideways tug action. Ark on his head does have 5 points on it in his helmet, and then he's got 6 points beneath that. So there's 18 points there. So take it down to 13 points. That'll take 6 off plus the 6 again. So it's literally be a serious wound. Can somebody roll for me, please? A D100. And his endurance is 75. Yeah, you actually he doesn't. Let me just check this, because if it's a serious wound, negative points, greater or starter point, major wound. Sorry, it is. He can't fight anymore, and limbs are. Yeah, there's a wonderful sort of like snapping sound and a crunching sound, and Ark's scream is cut off very remotely, very quickly, and the reptile releases the head, and the head doesn't actually drop. It just seems to dangle from what appears to be sort of like the tenuous nerve endings of muscles and things like that, and it lets out another huge squeal, a screech, and it goes round the opposite side of the mountain. Yeah, so round this side of the mountain. Ark doesn't seem to be screaming anymore, but you figure the chances of him actually being dead is probably very high, and you watch as the tail goes out of sight, and there's a rain of what appears to be fine blood particles, fine blood droplets hanging in the air as Ark, still clutched by the reptile, disappears round the edge. And that seems with your spear.
I will draw my sword as my dither.
Yeah, that's fine. now seems a good idea to take a break. So we will be back in 10 minutes to see what happens on the side of the mountain up to Hessaret's treasure. We'll see you soon. Right, yes, we are back. So we're going to pick up the action straight from there. So just to remind you, this reptile beast has sort of like flown in, and Ark pushed Tobias, who bashed into Hengist. Both Tobias and Hengist, you're still stood up. But it meant that this reptile sort of like grabbed Ark, pulled him away, did a quite nifty turn in the air, and started to head off, and then nearly bit Ark's head completely off as they were flying away. And the first thing I would like to say is, Bartleby, could you please make a law monsters roll for me, please?
I would love to. How?
Okay, I'm going to send you something in your Discord.
Ooh. Secret messages.
Amriel provides.
You can say that again. Okay. Thanks, Amriel.
What happens to my my spell?
You haven't cast it, so it's
I don't lose the magic points.
no. There's something else coming towards you, Mr. Pickles. Just 1 second. There you go.
If I have a question, should I send it through Discord?
Yes. Yes. Unless you want to. What we're going to do now is that we're going to carry on the action from this point. So you by all means send it to me. So there's this terrific woof of air as this reptile flies off round the opposite side of the mountain. Finiel's has her back to the wall, and so has Laram. Laram's here back against the wall near you, Gulliver. Gulliver, you cease your spell casting. You don't lose anything because the spell hadn't actually gone off. And you're sort of like there. Hessaret, you notice that your spear did impale nicely and has gone with the reptile beast round the edge.
Can I, just out of interest, would I still be able to continue along the path with holding that spell ready to cast?
Yes, you can. You can hold a spell. You can do various things. If you look on, there's actually a list of the things you can do.
The only thing I was thinking about was about the target, because I have to specify. Do I have to specify the person, or is it just a individual?
Well, what I would say is that it's going to take. How many turns is it going to take to cast it? Are you planning on finishing it and then doing it?
Yeah. I was just planning on holding it just in case.
Yeah. So this is okay then. So it does state in the rules that you can hold spells for X amount of rounds. To me, what my brain thinks is that if we play that rule, you can hold a spell and have it ready to cast on the first turn, it means all spellcasters can. And I was just thinking, say for example, if I was a folk magic, I would naturally either have Disrupt ready to cast, or, well, if I was a sorcerer, a high level sorcerer, I would have, what is the power word, the one that reduces your constitution to 0?
Diminished characteristic.
Yeah, which actually causes death, doesn't it, if you fail your thing? So every sorcerer, I feel like having that on. I just need to... there's somewhere that it actually says what you can actually do holding a spell. So
It's okay. I won't bother.
I'll just find that so we can see exactly what it says. Bartleby, is there anything you would like to do?
Yes. Did you say we're already traveling along, or we just finished our fight?
Everybody is just stood in a state
surprise
of
and objects. Yeah.
Yes. In that case, Bartleby goes, "Huh? No arms. Didn't have any arms. That's certainly good for us."
Is that a relevant thing?
So Gulliver, it states, once casting is complete, the character may hold a spell, miracle or spirit in temporary check, awaiting the best moment to release it. The magic may be hurled back for as long as the character continues to take his action, this action on subsequent turns, but allows free use of the counter spell reaction if pertinent. Now that is a combat. It's a reactive action that actually costs power points, action points. So I think it's more to do holding it within a combat rather than holding it forever.
Moving, because movement would be classed as mine.
Yeah, and then, for example, if you have to make an athletics roll, then that would be another action as well. Yeah. So Bartleby, I didn't hear what you said, so my fault.
Bartleby commented, didn't have any arms. That's gonna be good for us.
Yeah, Tobias sort of like he looks completely and utterly almost like stunned, and you notice that he's just stood there. He's almost transfixed at the point where the reptile, the flying reptile, took Ark's head nearly off, and he just seems to be staring at that point. His arms are almost like he looks almost like stupefied or zombie-like, and he's literally just staring straight ahead. You notice Hengist, you can see this. Bartleby, you can. Gulliver, you probably can't because of the incline of the slope. You can both Hengist and Bartleby, you can see that the colour has literally drained from his face.
Hengist is going to take his water skin from the side of his pouch, and he's sort of like going to hand it to Tobias and say, "Here, just drink some of this. It will take some of the edge off."
Yeah, as you hold out the thing to him, he sort of like turns at you, and he sort of like with one hand he just sort of like knocks the water skin out of your hand. It sort of like rattles down towards Hessaret, and he sort of like looks at you even more. He doesn't look stupefied now. You can just roll an inside check for me. Well done. 31, dead success. He almost like looks angry, and you can see that his Bartleby, you can see that his fists are clenched. He doesn't seem to have any weapons out, but he seems to have his fists clenched, and he's just sort of like his head is his eye level is slightly up to meet yours, Hengist, and he says through gritted teeth, he's sort of like he looks at you and says, "You killed my best friend."
How Hengist is sort of a little bit shocked by that. He says, "I didn't kill him. I tried to get to you, but the beast beat me to it, and Ark saved your life."
That wasn't the you were stood next to Tobias when the beast took him.
Yeah, no, but I mean, what Hengist is thinking is he saw it, shouted the warning, tried to get there in time as the beast.
No, you were stood next to Tobias, and I was quite specific because I asked you what you were going to do when you were stood next to Tobias. And so you were actually, so basically what it was Tobias was where so you were on this side, and then Ark came up and knocked everybody sideways. But as Ark knocked everybody sideways, the reptile grabbed Ark. So, Tobias is sort of like saying, he just growled at you.
Okay, in that case, Hengist isn't going to say anything, and he's going to turn around and pick his water skin up. Okay,
so whereabouts are you going?
Wherever the water skin.
Okay,
went.
so yeah, you
Hessaret, then that's where he is.
Yeah, you sort of like walk off, and Tobias turns round to you, and he shouts, and even the people down at the bottom, you all hear this. Tobias just shouts out. He just says, "You coward!"
Hengist is going to ignore it. He doesn't see the point in even responding because he's not gonna fight Tobias because it's not worth it. He doesn't think Tobias is worth fighting, so he's just going to ignore him.
So you're sort of like got your back to Tobias, and Tobias carries on shouting abuse in various words, and he uses phrase like "call yourself a warrior," "call yourself this, that, and the other." You could have done this to the beast, or you could have done that to the beast, but you left it to my best friend to save my life, and in saving my life, he is now dead. And his words are quite acidic and bitter. And Hessaret, you can see Tobias from where you are. And you can see that he is somewhat, not somewhat, he's incredibly, he looks like he's on the edge.
Not great distress.
And I don't mean the edge of the drop.
Is teetering between madness and
and grief.
Carrying the world.
Yeah, well, I think he's probably dealing with his grief or the shock of things in a very aggressive way. And you also, you can also see that he actually has his hand on his ornate dagger that he carries by his waist. It's not actually drawn, but he's still hollering abuse as Hengist calling him names like coward and not an effective warrior and a doomed warrior and should stay at home and pet the animals and suckle the children, rather than donning on armor, and saving people, etc., etc.
Hessaret, hearing all this, will put up his hands to Tobias, and he'll be, Tobias, my friend, I feel your loss, but this is not the time. We all are still in danger. If you want to save us all, we need to keep moving. So please hold on to your grief.
Are you staying?
Your friends. Yes, I'll stay around. Respect your friend's death, and let's move forward. He died to save your life. Let's keep you alive.
Is anybody, Bartleby, you're next on the trail. Are you moving up at all, or is everybody else is staying where they are?
Are Fennel and Levan moving round?
Well, they can't at the moment because of Bartleby. That's why I asked Bartleby first whether or not he's moving at all.
Yes, and I want to be quietly praying to Amriel to clear Tobias's mind and let him see things as they should be. Which the prayer I'm trying to pray over him is this one, which you do get a willpower resist.
And you will have to touch him for.
Oh yeah, I do.
Unless you got it wrong.
Unless you got it wrong.
You know what? Let's just double check.
I was going to say let's just double check.
Yes, ranged resist willpower. I should probably be more prepared for spells I've known so long.
Or is it calm?
Yes. It should be like
calm is ranged. Yeah.
125 or 124.
Ooh.
So this is actually what I want to do at him.
Cool. Yeah.
And this is my roll.
I missed what you were going to do.
Pray to calm him down.
All right. I didn't know whether or not you were going to do a sort of like a patting sound, a patting thing.
Are you using luck at all for that?
No. If he wants to be sour, Amriel can't help him.
Okay. Yeah. So as you walk closer, Bartleby, to cast your spell, you sort of like almost like start to cast it, and you hear the bitterness in Tobias's voice, and also the words and the taunts that he's giving Hengist's way. And you sort of like decide, no, he doesn't deserve Amriel's blessing. Hessaret, is the idea that you're going to carry on leading the march? Bartleby, you also notice that Tobias has his hand on his dagger. Hessaret, sorry, you as well, both of you.
Ideally, I would like Hengist to move ahead of me. If his hand's on the dagger,
his hand is definitely on the dagger, and it's almost like this. You know, when you see the white knuckle,
white of his knuckles. Yeah.
He's holding it like this, and you can see that his.
If he gets a moment, he's going to put in Hengist back. So I want Hengist to go in front of me, please. So I'll pull over to the side.
Yeah.
And let Hengist, and I'll say to Hengist, go straight up, take the fastest route you can. I'm starting to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't know why.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yes. Take the chopper.
Okay. Yes. And Bartleby, do you wish to share anything else?
Yes. After Tobias says something, and as I guess Hengist is kind of traveling up, I want to say that's uncalled for. I know you're grieving, but there's no reason to say things about Hengist like that.
He turns round to you, and you just roll an insight check.
Oh, I would be glad to. Insight.
Yeah, you. He sort of like looks at you, and he doesn't utter a word, but all he does that thing when he narrows his eyes down and sort of like almost like squints at you, but lowers his eyebrows down, and you almost like get for the first time, Bartleby, you sense something from him. It's almost as if he's lost control of something, and in this state he's incredibly he doesn't look or sound like the Tobias you previously knew, and even the look is almost like not good at all. And it's almost when he looks at you straight into your eyes, and your eyes meet his, you almost get that unnatural feeling coming from his eyes, as if there has always been something in Tobias, and only now in this very tense situation, he's almost like lost control of it. And he hasn't been able to suppress it, and now it's almost like emerging, and you almost like see something in those eyes that you've never seen before.
Well, that's scary, and I'm gonna break my gaze with him and make my way to the end of the group. I want to get back to where Gulliver's at, if I can slink past.
Yeah. So So are we doing this?
Yes, unless Gulliver.
As they start to move off, Gulliver will say, "Is it wise having Levan behind Tobias on a trail that people can fall off very easy?"
I don't know. Gulliver. I'm seeing evil things. Evil things. Gulliver. I'm not scared. I'm just upset.
Look,
and scared.
Laram is quite happy to take the lead if need be. He's there. You could. He's quite happy. So the order would be that.
I was trying to get a big buff bodyguard in between me and Scary Man.
Oh, sorry.
But that was my goal there.
I'll put it back, and Gulliver will go behind. Gulliver will swap places with.
Finiel and Laram always need to be next to each other.
Yeah, we'll put them
like that.
Put them how they were, and then Gulliver will just swap places.
Okay, cool, like that. Okay, so
part of our thing was that we would keep them.
Yeah. So you
parties separated.
Okay, then. Yeah. So first of all, could you make your athletics rolls for me? This is the middle third. Hengist is fine. Bartleby's not. Gulliver's not. I didn't see Hessaret. Sorry, let me just scroll up.
Oh, sorry, you would see Hessaret. Sorry, I've done mine.
Yeah.
I had too bad. I moved, didn't I? So judo chop.
Oh yeah, Hessaret's just sort of like not. He's just sort of like moving deathly. He's almost like a wall crawler. Every now and again, he runs up a wall or jumps lightly over a bit of fallen or broken bars. Is anybody using luck on any of their rolls?
No.
Okay then. Hang on, it's coming up. So Bartleby, you were up first. So you take 1 point of damage of either one of your legs. It cannot be resisted via armor. So it's almost like you've twisted an ankle or you bashed your leg against something. And
this is my left.
Yeah, okay. And Gulliver, you take, it's coming up. You take 2 points of damage to one. It's just to one of your legs. Okay, so imagine that halfway up, one of you. Well, tell me what happens. How you got your injuries?
Okay, well, as Gulliver's walking up, he puts his foot in between, in sort of like a crack in the ground, and when he tries to move, he damages his ankle.
Okay, cool. And what about Bartleby?
I have my club out, of course, my walking club, as I call it, trying to prevent what exactly happens next. As I'm kind of looking out to make sure the wyvern doesn't come back, and keeping my club on the wall, I trip on a bit of the stone in the path. You said it was uneven, so I assume there's little points.
Oh yes, very much uneven. Yeah.
And then I smash my left knee on the.
Ouch! I hate it when you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's don't wait up for me, guys.
Okay.
Well, when it happens to Gulliver, and he sort of like goes down onto one knee after it's happened. He does want to cast a spell.
Okay, cool.
So touching his ankle, anybody in the vicinity can hear him almost like whisper, "Leia," as he casts the spell. So the spell I'm casting is that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you actually restore that 2 points of hit points, unless you only had 2 on it.
I had 3. That's
All right, cool. Yeah, so luckily you only took 2, and yeah, and you also get rid of a wart that's been on your ankle for a while, as well. I noted. So yeah, so you cast it and you gain your 2 hit points back, but lose magic point, of course. Okay, yeah. So you carry on up and you're stumbling around. Sorry, and as you get higher and higher up the side of the mountain, you start to hear the sound of gushing water. And the more you climb, the more you hear this gushing sound. And as you're sort of like, remember, you're going around corners all the time. As Hengist, as you turn round a corner and start to go up the other side, you can notice something in front of you. Just make a perception check for me. Yeah, it almost like, look, it's a bit like this thing here. It looks like a boulder, and or a small pebble or something like that, or a hand-sized rock. However, as you get closer to it, you suddenly notice that it's actually, you recognize it instantly. It's Ark's head, and it looks like, from the look of it, it's very battered, and there's still blood coming out of its nose and stuff like that, and its eyes are wide open, almost like staring. It's totally lifeless, of course, and you figure it's probably almost like being dropped over the side of the mountain from high above, and it's literally sort of like bounced its way down, and then eventually made its way onto the path.
Right. I don't know what to do. Hengist is
Just so you know, Hessaret, there's no spear. Before you ask.
No. I was like, spear? Oh, well, at least you can play football.
Please tell me you're not saying that out loud.
No.
That thought did cross my mind.
Teams.
Hengist will probably stoop to pick it up, and he wants to carefully lay it on the side and close his eyes. And then is there a bit of space around it?
Yeah, it's exactly how the map is.
In which case he's going to stay where he is, and then when Bartleby gets just about within his sight, he's going to call out to Bartleby and say, "Would you be able to say a few words on behalf of?"
Okay,
I can.
On behalf of his head.
So
Alas, poor Ark. I knew him well, Tobias.
I just need, so you put your sword away and you pick up the head and you put it where? If you just ping where you want it.
He wants to put it in sort of like a slightly nicer place than it is, so maybe against the edge, and he's going to make sure the eyes are closed as well.
So
he's doing this very respectfully and with great reverence.
Yeah, and
I probably would have said, "Stop, everybody! I'm going to scout ahead."
Yes,
I did think to over the edge so that Tobias doesn't see it.
So as you sort of like
Tobias and have his throat cut.
As you sort of like pick up the head and sort of
like this, put 2 fingers in the eyes, one in the nose.
Yeah, just sort of like a bowling ball. Yeah, you sort of like pick up the head, and
This isn't going to go down well.
and of course, as it comes round. Tobias sees you as you pick up this head and are about to put it down, and Tobias sort of like almost like snaps at you and sort of like says, "Put it down! How dare you touch someone more honourable than you!"
Hengist was already in the process of closing the eyes and putting it down, so he's just going to carry on anyway.
Yeah, and Tobias comes up to you and he sort of like puts his hands out and he sort of like pushes you and say, "Get away from him!" like this. He needs to make a roll because he's not suitably strong at all.
Is he trying to get ahead in life?
Just so you know, his unarmed combat skill is 27.
It's not much worse than mine.
Yeah, he gets 42, so he sort of like tries to push you away, and his hands just sort of like bashes straight up against you, but he almost like reacts as if he's done what he wanted to do, even though you didn't move anything at all. He just sort of like tried to push you away, and then he's turned back to the head and he takes off his backpack and he seems to rummage around in it, and he brings out what appears to be some kind of the tablecloth. They're like the lawn cloth that he used with his meals or something like that. He brings that out and he sort of like lays it over the head, and
is it kind of haphazard or quite reverently?
Very reverently, extremely reverently. And you, Hessaret, you can even, he's sort of like bent over the head now, so the head is covered with the cloth, and he's sort of like down on his knees, and you can hear him. He is sobbing over the death of his friend. It's as if he might have pulled himself together slightly, but then this has opened it all again.
I want to put my hand as gently as I can on his shoulder and say, "Tobias, my friend, we shall avenge his heroic death. Have no fear."
Yeah, and as you go near him and you put your hand on his shoulder, he immediately snaps round and looks up at you, and seeing that it's you, he sort of like ignores it and sort of like looks back to the cloth. And you can hear when he looks up to you, Hessaret, his eyes are red with tears. Yeah, he's completely and utterly consumed with grief at the moment, and it is as if this is the only thing he has left of Ark, his best friend, his comrade in arms. He's almost like wrapping the head up in this shirt or this cloth, extremely reverently, and he sort of like put it over Ark's face, almost as if to block to block that out, so he still has the vision that he doesn't want to be thinking about Ark like his face, which is with his eyes gaping open, and he sort of like wraps it up really sort of as if he's wrapping up fish and chips, really carefully, and sort of like he's just knelt there crying.
I can see this case in 20 years, this head in 20 years' time, sat in a case in his bedroom somewhere.
Well, it doesn't look like, you're not too sure what he's planning on doing, Hessaret, whether or not he's planning on leaving it here or taking it with him or what. You're not too sure at all at the moment.
Yep. Okay, I've said my piece. I will step back and I'll keep an eye on him, and we'll be moving forward.
Yeah, so you sort of like Hengist sort of like moves round, and you all sort of like move round slightly, but Tobias doesn't appear to be moving at all until you get close to Bartleby, and as you're about to go past, he sort of like holds out his arm, almost at leg height, not to trip you or anything, just to sort of stop you, and says, his head's still down and he's sort of like sobbing through his tears, and he talks through his tears, and he sort of like says, Master Bartleby, could you please say a few words over our fallen comrade?
Of course, I'd be happy to. And I'll proceed to tell a story from the theology of Amriel, mostly going over themes of repentance and moving forward through disaster. When an evil god takes, Amriel will do her best to bring you on a path where you can recover.
Yeah, and he sort of like keeps his head down. You can hear he's not pretending to sob. He's really absolutely sobbing his heart out. And you sort of like finish your words, and you hear him say something, and it's almost like a whisper, and you're the only person who can actually hear it because you're so close to him. And you hear him whisper, and he's sort of like he stops sobbing to actually say these words. So these words come out very crystal and very clear, but in a whispered tone. And basically he says, "Rest in peace, my friend. Do not worry. You will be revenged." And he finishes that. And at that point, he almost like stands up. And Bartleby, you saw that evil look in his eye beforehand. It's no longer there. He appears to be back in control of his emotions, but the only emotion that you see in his face now is pure determination, and he obviously has a mission to fulfill, and that's of what he's planning on doing. Okay, so you carry on up the mountain, and the noise of cascading water becomes louder and louder and louder. It's so loud now that in order to even talk to each other, even if you put your hands over and shouted at somebody else, that you don't know whether or not that would actually be heard. It's almost like in order to hear what anybody's saying, you're going to have to make a formidable perception check to actually hear it. And before you is almost like a short lake. It's about approximately about 5 meters wide, so the diameter is roughly about 5 meters, so it's not huge, but what you do notice is that water is sort of like cascading down from higher up in the mountains, and when you look up, it's extremely high. You figure this water is probably emanating right from the top of the mountain, and it's just coming down, and it's one of those things that as you look up, you can actually follow the water down. It almost like freezes in time, and it almost like looks like it's suspended for a while, then it crashes into this lake. There's no...
The water coming out from halfway, was that...
Well, yeah, so there's no other outlet from this pond, and you figure that this is almost like a tunnel, so it probably cascades from something up above, comes down, hits the water, hits this pond, and then there might be another exit at the bottom of this lake that you can't see,
like a sink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it goes out again, so you figure that this is where the waterfall
is getting to the lake at the bottom.
Correct, yeah. But when you look up,
it's been fed from high above,
way high above.
Yeah.
And anybody looking at it, you probably, there seems to be too much water.
Because it's the big, yeah. Yeah, because water builds up and ooh.
Yeah, so you're just in front of the path. Seems to just end.
Just looking up at the top of the mountain. Are these clouds still going around it? And
Yeah.
Are they calm clouds? Are they thunder
Yeah,
clouds?
no, they're perfectly. They're sort of like whitish, fluffy clouds, but they totally obscure the top of the mountain altogether.
Right. Okay, so it's not like a halo that goes around. It's literally a cotton wool ball.
Yeah, and it's preventing you seeing the top of the mountain altogether. And you, if you make locale rolls for me.
Is that for anybody to throw
Yeah,
out?
anybody can roll that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Gulliver and Hengist, you can roll it because it's not specific to this locality. Yeah, so Gulliver and Hessaret, you figured that those clouds might be the result of this waterfall. There might actually be water vapor going upwards via the flow of the water, taking the clouds up to the top, and you think everything's probably connected to that. The other thing that you do figure out is that you haven't seen on your way up any sort of like nesting site or anything like that. You're probably higher up than when you found the head, so you know that it's either come from this level or higher, but you can't see the top of the waterfall at all. It just seems to come down. So you're I'm just going to draw it for you. It's not to scale, but it should give you an idea. So your pathway comes up like this, okay, and then it stops. There's a pond there, and then this is where the waterfall is. Yeah.
So the path doesn't carry on.
No.
So we'd have to go through is there a path on the other side of the waterfall?
You can't see through the water.
Right.
Whilst we're all stood there, looking at this various thing, Gulliver's going to stand next to Bartleby. What did Bartleby say as we were going up? Did he say he had no hands or no arms?
No arms, he said.
And so Gulliver's going to say, Bartleby, what did you mean by it had no arms?
Well, it goes back to an old story I used to read quite a bit, actually, of the fight of two dragons. And there were two dragons fighting, and the smarter one ripped off the arms of the stronger one. With the smarter one having the advantage there, the weaker one ran off, did its own business. I forget how it ended.
Happily ever after.
But, well, I don't know about that, Gabrielle. But it was a case where the dumber dragons are always missing their arms in stories, as far as I know, which means perhaps we're safer than if it were a true dragon. Okay,
Gulliver, can you make your perception roll, please? And you need to get formidable or higher.
Oh yeah, I guess I would have to be screaming this.
Yeah,
this
so
casual
you're screaming this to Gulliver, and Gulliver's going. And Gulliver, you don't hear a word of it. Actually, Bartleby, roll your perception.
I just, with no prodding or anything, I just start screaming about life.
Well, this is, yeah. You thought Gulliver said something about how do you keep so clean, and you're sort of like saying, "Well, I go
What
have
happened to your palms?"
you're sort of like shouting at him, and Gulliver, you're sort of like straining to listen, and you're just hearing the odd word coming out like soap and water, and you're thinking, what's he going on about?
Hengist tea.
Yes. Yeah, so you're all congregated round the at the edge of this waterfall. So imagine that you're all, let's just so you can see it. So let's put it. Let's say that the edge of the waterfall is there, and so you guys are all like this.
And there's no other pathway around the waterfall. It's just literally a bowl of water with the waterfall at the back.
Yeah, it looks like you're almost like in a tunnel, so you've got the sides how it is at the moment, and it just seems to stop there.
Yeah.
Can I
Okay,
start?
well,
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
no, I was going to say, well, I'm the lightest armor here, so if I tie, feel free to laugh away. If I tie a rope around my waist and swim across under the waterfall to see what's there, and then in case I get sucked down, you can pull me back up.
Okay, so just so you know,
Swimming.
yeah, there is a swimming skill, and
I do have it.
yeah, and just to let you know that actually going through the waterfall will require, even if you try to go under it, because the height of the water is plummeting down. Yeah,
pressure.
It will be an opposed brawn roll. Okay, so you will roll your brawn, I will roll the waterfall's brawn, and then
So it pushes me down or not.
yes, well, it's whether or not you get through or not. So if you failed, you would be pushed underwater, and they would have to yank you back.
So this blue line is the water coming down.
That's the lake.
Pond. Yeah.
That's the edge of the lake.
Pond.
Yeah,
And across the lake, we can see where the waterfall
comes down. Yeah,
I'm assuming it's not a big lake. It's just like a bowl, isn't it?
yeah. It's literally
Maybe
10
meters.
it's 5 meters across. So it's literally, it's almost like the width of your path. That's about 4 meters. So
I'm pointing, it doesn't work on this when you point at the screen, does it?
right. Just to let you know, the water finishes there. Yeah. So this here is the waterfall, but that's the width of the waterfall of the pond.
And there's nothing else. It's just just that, and there's nothing on the left, nothing right. It's just the waterfall ahead.
And you can peer over the edge, Hessaret, and look down, and you can just see that it's one of those times that when you look down, it actually scares you that the water looks so deep.
Yeah.
And it actually looks like, it almost like looks as if there's it almost looks like there's a tube going down. But you can't see the bottom. It's far too dark. And
I've seen these things on the steps. They are like just.
I don't think you have very many mountains and steps.
No, we have like potholes.
Yeah. The other thing that you notice is that a lot of the actual all round. Sorry, I don't want that. I want my not that tool. That tool. You also notice that sort of like round here, this is all sort of like agitated water.
Yeah, foaming and from.
Yeah. And there's a spray coming up from it as well. Bartleby, what you were about to say something?
Yeah, I couldn't hear anybody because of the noise, obviously. So I start waving my arms around because maybe Amriel will hear me and my cry.
Are you taking an extra 10 minutes? A minute to cast it, sorry? Yeah.
Yes, I was just about to ask if I could take minutes while everybody's...
Yeah. So this would be an easy roll then.
And of course, this is the prayer I'm attempting to cast. Amriel, give me illumination.
Yes, that is successful. And while Hengist and everybody is looking at the far end, you notice that there is magic, and it's emanating from this can you see this arc in the stone, just here? That archway. It's emanating from that, and when you look at it, there appears to be some writing. It's runic writing. It's not actual. It's no language you've seen before. It looks very stylized, and it seems to be some kind of. It has straight lines. There's no curves in it. Everything's straight, as if it's being chiseled into the rock. You have no idea what it says, but it's definitely magical.
Can I approach it?
Yes, by all means.
I'm gonna just move myself on over there, pushing Hengist out of the way. I guess I'll press my mangled hands onto the rune, see if that does anything.
There seems to be there's 3 runes on the door that seems to be 1, 2, 3, and you sort of like put your mangled hands against it, and you sort of like try them in different orders, and then you do find that one of the order that you press them, something seems to click, and the whole side of the mountain opens inwards, and it's sort of like a like that. There is coming out of here a waft of stale air, and it sort of like greets you. It doesn't smell of decay or anything. It just sort of like feels like stale air. The person who's taken a lot of interest in this is Laram. And he comes up to you and says for the first time, in quite articulate language, he says, "What did you see? How did you make the door open?"
Can I hear him over the waterfall? Does he get like really close to me or something?
You need to make your perception check.
Can do. Perception. Oh, this would be terrible to miss this first words.
Oh, so close. You need to have formidable. He seems to be mouthing something at you, and you sort of like think, what's he saying? What's he saying? And then all of a sudden, he almost like pushes his way through and enters into the doorway. You can see Bartleby into. It's like a tunnel. You also notice that there's what appears to be like an old barrel, and in there's a whole load of what appear to be torches, and in a little niche in the wall there seems to be like a dry tinderbox, and without any hesitation Laram sort of like picks one of the torches up and uses the tinderbox to actually strike it up, and he holds it in one of his hands, and he carries his great hammer holding it on the edge, but it's balanced over his shoulder, if that makes sense, so he's got the leverage to keep it in place, and he holds it up, and Bartleby, you can see this tunnel that has obviously been chiseled out of the rock, and it goes down on this picture to about here, and then it turns to the north, so you can see that it comes down and then turns like that. It's not a nice right angle, it's a slight roll.
Have the rest of us seen what's happened?
So you've seen all that happening, and you've also, Bartleby, you've also seen Laram head down there with the torch held high.
Hessaret will try and touch everybody's shoulder and then point to the hole and like motion go towards.
So Bartleby, you're actually in the entrance at the moment. So do you want to usher anybody else inside first, or are you going?
I'm gonna gesture in there, like a gesture. It's like, look what look what Amriel and I did.
Yeah.
And then I'll shout praise Amriel despite nobody probably being able to hear that.
Okay, so Finiel, Gulliver, almost like jogs in as she passes you. Who's going after Finiel?
Gulliver will.
Okay. Then whom?
I'll go after that.
And then who? Do you want Tobias next?
Yeah, put Tobias next.
Yeah.
Right behind me? He's going to stab me.
And then I'll go next to Tobias.
Okay.
And then Hengist be at the rear, and I'll be saying, yes, praise Finiel, she found the way.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
And Finiel turns to you, Gulliver. And as you're walking down this tunnel, she turns around to you and she says to you, this was probably descendants of Laram's tribe once. That's why he's so eager to get in here. Hopefully he might be able to find something about the long lost tribe that he knew so well. He believes he's actually a descendant of Hessaret's tribe.
Ow.
So everybody in the corridor can hear each other now because the sound of the waterfall has gone.
What happens to the door as we go through it? Does it remain open or?
Yeah, Hengist is the last person to come in. You're actually round the corner, but Hengist, you notice that it stays open. It doesn't close itself or anything like that.
Sorry, did Laran he took a torch, didn't he?
Yes, he has a torch. If
Okay.
anybody else would like to take a torch, there are torches available.
Yes, I think we should all take a torch, whether light them or not. Let's keep a torch on ourselves.
Agreed.
Sensible to take the light while we can.
Okay, so you come out. The corridor, the tunnel goes round in almost like an arcing circle, and it comes back round, and you figure, a bit like somebody suggested, you're actually now behind the waterfall. And
Is it going up as an incline, or is it flat?
no, this is all flat, and you seem to be in a cavern behind the waterfall. It's still noisy, but not as noisy. And there's the cavern is it's huge. It's absolutely huge. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 meters in diameter.
So this comes around, then we can see a cavern in front of us.
Yeah, so this comes round like that, and then sort of like it comes out into a huge cavern that is actually behind the waterfall. The cavern it seems to be about waist deep in water, well, somewhere between your knees and your waist. The sides of the cavern go straight down into the water. Okay, it's not something that there isn't a path that goes round. You're going to have to walk through the water. On the opposite side to you appears what is another small waterfall. It's only dropping about, say, 5 meters, and it's dropping down, and you can't see it because of the distance, but your torchlight's only going 9 meters, but you can definitely hear it in the distance.
Gulliver's going to say to Finiel, if we need to cross the cavern, might we be better keeping to the wall?
Finiel sort of like passes this up to Laram, and Laram sort of like nods and sort of like drops into the water. And it comes up to roughly about his thighs, but remember he's quite tall, and he's got his hammer on one side and his torch held high, and he starts to almost like push his gigantic thighs through the water, and Finiel nimbly jumps in after him, and it comes up to her waist, and she's sort of like holding her daggers up above her head so they don't actually get wet or anything like that. And everybody, and then people could then jump in as sees fit. But before
is there a current in this water, or is it just still?
No, the water is incredibly still.
Still, right.
There's the occasional ripple, as if something has dropped from above and just gone plump in it. Hengist, you're fine. You'll be able to wade through it. You won't have to swim, so your negative point doesn't make any difference. But the first thing I would like you all to do, please, is perception rolls.
Could I use a point of luck to re-roll mine, please?
Yes, by all means. Unlucky. Right. So, Gulliver, you're the only person who sees this, and a drip of water crashes down, and you sort of like look at it, and you sort of like look up, and you've all got torches, haven't you? I think you said that you all had torches in your hand. Took torches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you sort of like.
Well, we took them. I don't know whether or not we lit them.
Mine's not.
No, we didn't light them all, but we took torches.
Okay, so you're just walking with your torch, and you sort of like look up, and you can see about halfway up at the side of the curve, there's what appears to be some rather large bats hanging upside down. When I say large, you figure that their wingspan. Your wingspan would be about 0.5 meter wide. So it's not like your everyday bat. They look like they're quite hefty bats. They seem to be hanging upside down like bats do, and they seem to be very very stationary. But as Laram starts to go through the water, you see that they become slightly jittery as you start to make your way around the side.
Remember the other bat. So he's going to put his hand on Finial's shoulder to get her attention.
Yeah.
And when she turns around, he's going to point up at the at where he can see the bats. And he's going to make the quiet. He's going to put his fingers to his lips to indicate that to be quiet.
Yeah,
and then once he's done that, he's going to turn to Bartleby, and when he has Bartleby's attention, he's going to point up to where the bats are, and once again make the put his fingers.
Yeah, and Finiel sort of like looks up and then looks down at you, and she says, "They're rather big bats."
In barely more than a whisper, Gulliver's going to say, "The last ones that we encountered, they were attracted to noise. Tell Loran to be as quiet as he can."
Yeah, and she sort of like quickens her pace because obviously you've stopped momentarily to hear this, and she quickens her pace and puts her hand on Loran's shoulder and sort of like whispers something in that you're not too sure what it is that she actually says, but you do know that Loran sort of like looks up as you continue down, and the message is passed back that to sort of like be careful. Luckily, only the one torch that you've got lit doesn't seem to be causing that much heat or that much light, and it's only catching the bats on the corner, on the peripheral of the habitat and the horde of them. And you figure you all figure that if you'd all had torches, or there'd been more than one, then things would have been slightly different. Right, you should all have. Let me just check. You should all have a skill to roll for me, and you should all have the skill swim. It's a standard skill. Okay, now this is okay. So, do you wish to use a point of luck for that, Hazra?
Oh, I wish I had one.
Okay. So this is as you sort of like make your way through it. So Hazra, you fail. Yeah. Rest of you.
If we have
Bartleby's walking on water.
The Messiah.
Hengist,
our hands free. Can we help it by holding on to the rock face on the?
Yeah, so you're not actually swimming. You're wading, and there's nothing to actually grab hold of. Right, hang on. Let's Bartleby, you're nimble. Hengist, do you wish to use a point of luck?
No.
No. Okay then. And Gulliver, do you wish to use a point of luck? Okay then. So as you sort of like wade across, Hazra, at some point between here and the end of it, Hazra, you trip and fall into the water.
Yep.
You know, and so you're wet now, and so you actually therefore get 1 level of fatigue.
With the weight of the clothing.
Exactly. Hengers, you get 1 level of fatigue as well. And Gulliver, so do you. Bartleby, you would have got 1 level of fatigue, but I can't give it to it because you got your spell on it. Plus, you got a critical success, which I think is the second critical you've got this session, which is brilliant. Okay then, so you make your way round, and like I said, luckily you only had 1 torch lit, and even when somebody falls into the water, everybody sort of like stops and looks up, and you slowly sort of like lift yourself out. And on the other side of the chamber, there is a waterfall that is not so impressive, but there is another side passage off this one that obviously goes off around it. And the ram quite happily sort of like steps out and starts to go around this corridor. Gulliver, could you please make me a perception roll? Yes. Okay. So you make it, and you're the first person. That's why you got this. You stand on something, and as you stand on it, it feels very different underneath your foot. Up to now, you've been walking on ground, but when you put your foot down, you seem to step on wood. And what would you like to do?
I'm going to stop where I am.
Yeah.
It's
just imagine that the corridor goes, the corridor that Laram and Finiel have just stepped up into out of the water. You were just at that entrance to that. So
just about to step.
So so imagine this is the corridor that the tunnel that goes out, okay, and you felt it just here. Maybe because you got smaller legs or something like that, but you've definitely stood on something wooden.
And I'm still in the water.
Yeah, whatever these things are, they're under the water.
Okay. So he's going to say in a whisper, "Wait."
Finiel stops and Laram stops, and they both look round.
Gulliver's going to say, "I've stood on something."
Finiel says,
"It feels wooden." I don't know. I don't want to take my foot off it. Can you feel under the water and see what it is? It might.
Who's doing the flapping for the bat? All I could hear was flapping. Who are you talking to, Gulliver? Bartleby's behind you. And
I'm talking to Finial at the moment because she's the one that turned around when I said wait.
Yeah, she sort of like lies on her front on the corridor and sort of like leans over and she puts her hands into the water. Then she suddenly realizes that she can't do it, so she puts one hand in and she says, she feels around for a while and then she says, there appears to be 2 planks of wood.
Could it be part of a door?
The ram comes round and sort of like shines his flaming torch, and you sort of like look down and you can see the 2 planks of wood now. They're about 2 meters long, so each one's about 2 meters long and about 30 centimeters wide, and they look quite sturdy. And you also notice that they're shod with bronze caps, so the ends have got bronze caps on either side. The other thing that you notice,
could it be used as a ramp?
Yeah, something like that. You know, it could be sort of like put up to this corridor that Finiel's like lying over. Both of them could have rested up against that, because you do also notice that the surface of them is quite oily. It looks like it's covered in something that is preventing it getting wet.
Yeah,
it's almost like as if it's preserved.
I mean, Gulliver brought up in a port in a coastal town. Has he ever seen anything similar for when they were getting boats out of the on the docks, anything like that?
Yeah, the boat planks doesn't tend to be bronze shod at either side, because they're normally done with clinker boarding, so they're sort of like laid over the top of each other, and then those bits are nailed in place, and then pitch is put down them to make them airtight. This has definitely got like a lump of bronze over either end. You figure it's not even, it doesn't even look like from a door, Gulliver. You know, it just looks like you think your best explanation that you gave was that they're used to do 2 ramps, maybe to go from the water into this this corridor. Roll for me. Let me see. Yeah, roll an insight for me. Oh, nice one. Yeah, you figure there. Yes, definitely that.
Definitely ramps.
Yeah, it's something definitely. You know, some way of a way of moving something, say across something, or up something, or over something, or down something. And
well, as Loran sort of like is holding his torch so we can get a better look, Gulliver's going to whisper. He's going to say, "It's okay. I think they're just ramps. I was just concerned that I had stood on a trap."
Yeah, Finiel says, "Ramps for what?" She sort of like looks round the chamber and says, "There's nothing here but us and bats." And Bartleby, make an insight roll for me. You have...
Gulliver's going to say, probably to move Hessaret here.
Finiel says, Hessaret or Hessaret's treasure?
Yeah, one of the two, whichever was heaviest.
She when you say that, a smile comes over her face, because you sort of like said heavy, and she thinking Hessaret's treasure, heavy, i.e. lots of it. And she sort of like looks back at you and says, shall we leave it? Shall we leave them here?
I think we should probably leave them here.
She says, right, we can always come back for them if need be.
They do look pretty heavy.
Yeah, you figure that you'll probably need a brawn roll to sort of like lift them up. You figure that they will be exceptionally heavy. You don't think, Gulliver, just by looking at them you'll be able to lift them by yourself. You don't actually think Laram might be able to do it by himself. You know, it might take 2, maybe 3 people to actually lift it.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so with Laram leading the way, you head out onto this tunnel in the order that you're in. Hessaret, Tobias seems to be glancing around a lot. He seems to be incredibly nervous. It's as if something is coming to an end. He's almost going to find something that he's been missing, or he's been looking for a huge amount of time, and he's constantly looking around the place, and he's almost like quite twitchy. And you notice that he has his hand on his dagger almost like constantly now. It's not drawing it, but it's almost as if he's either readying himself to do something or readying himself to react to something. None of what you're seeing now, remember, was on the map. This is on you.
I will whisper to Tobias in a strong, calm, friendly voice. Tobias, relax, my friend. We will soon be at the journey's end, and you'll be able to revenge your fallen comrade.
Yeah, and as you talk to him, he suddenly jumps round. He sort of like whirls round and then sees it's you, and just sort of like he almost like looks blankly at you and turns away and sort of like looks at Bartleby's back, clutching his dagger. And
not Bartleby.
So you all step out of this water-clogged area, and each one of you notice these planks of wood as you step out, and it's almost like a chain that somebody passes it down to the next person to be careful. And Gulliver, you almost like hinted at this a little bit earlier on. The corridor that you're the tunnel, that you're walking along at the moment definitely goes up. There's definitely an incline to it, and it's quite a substantial incline. And Laram's leading up at the top front, and his torchlight is doing 9 meters. Like any torch would do, so it's just coming to you in the back, Hengist. You're slightly in. You're in that sort of like dim part. Yeah.
Can I light a torch and then give it to Tobias? Say, Tobias, my friend, can you hold this torch so we can see where we're going? It would be a benefit.
He sort of like he looks at you and he takes it left-handed. So he's taking it with his left hand.
While I'm doing that, I'm going to move in front of him so that it's Tobias, me, and then Bartleby. So I will walk past him, say, hold this torch, and then move myself in front of Tobias.
So Tobias is next to Hengist.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Solved one problem.
I know. Why does he hate you both?
Is that how you're doing it?
You may be a little bit mute right now.
I'm very mute. Sorry. Yeah, it's the whole looking at holding the dagger and looking at Bartleby's back, and he's the most vulnerable person in the party, so I will protect Bartleby.
Okay, so you're walking up this incline, and this incline is quite difficult to walk up. It's almost like this, and you're sort of like you're walking up it almost like having one hand down on the slope.
Is there any markings on the ground where something might have been dragged or something?
You've got limited light in this thing room, because you've only got Laram's torch at the front and yours at somebody at the back. But yeah, roll your tracking skill.
No, I don't have it.
All right, roll your perception skill then, but it'll be formidable. Oh yeah, you no, actually you fail, don't you?
Hard fatigue, it's Herculean.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so you sort of like look, it's being sort of like cut out in places, but you're not too sure whether or not anything's been dragged up here, and you sort of like carry on, and it's becoming quite a climb. You're literally on all fours, or two legs and one hand, sort of like crawling your way up. And as you're doing that, all of a sudden, Gulliver, you look up, and as you look up, just past Finiel's bottom, you catch over to one side, and you see Laram, who's at the lead, walking up, and then suddenly he disappears, and you hear a cry as he falls out of sight. What do you wish to do?
At the moment, I've got Finiel in front of me.
Yeah. So what do you wish to do?
I want to grab hold of Finiel's leg and release my arm so that my weight goes onto her body. Yeah,
so you sort of like grab her leg and sort of like try to hold her down with her legs. You suddenly notice that let's just see what happens to the torch. Yeah, the torch doesn't seem to go out. There's still light sort of like coming up a bit from the pit ahead, and you can see as you crawl up to the edge. Is that what you're doing, Si?
Yeah. I mean, once I've stopped Finiel from just blindly following Laram.
Yeah. So you sort of like both of you
I'll clamber over her if I need to, just so that I can get to the edge, almost using her as a climbing tool.
Yeah. Well, you both sort of like climb to the edge, and the tunnel was going up like that, and then just here, it literally stops, and Laram literally crawled off the edge, and plummeted down into what appears almost like a 6-meter drop. And as you peer over the edge, you see down below, that is now highlighted by the torch that is down there, you see that there's a number of bronze spikes. They're definitely made out of bronze, sticking up. I just need to do two things. Right, this is the damage of the fall of Laram. 6 points. Let's just call up his sheet. Okay then, and then this is the spike damage. Okay. So that's 6 points of damage plus 1 point. 1 point. I need to roll that again for the impale, because we're going to take the largest roll. So we'll do 2. Okay, and it ignores armor. So you look over the edge and you notice down below Laram is lying there. He's been impaled on the spikes. You notice that he's got one spike in his arm, one in his right leg, and one in his right arm. So he seems to be impaled on them. So on this arm, it's actually come through and obviously bust the bone. He's actually down there. He's not dead. He's actually moaning. He seems to be drifting in and out of consciousness. Gulliver, you recognise that this is not this is a manufactured trap. It's not an artificial thing. These are bronze spikes that have been put at the bottom of a pit to cause the maximum amount of damage. Just to let you know, the gap from this part and the corridor beyond, which is slightly down, is about roughly the size of the planks of wood.
Right.
If only we brought them. It's just a wound. I can still walk.
Laram is he seems to be drifting in and out of consciousness.
Gulliver's going to say to Finiel, he's going to say, Finiel, help me down, and he's going to sort of like try to shimmy himself round so that his legs are going down first.
Yeah.
And then he wants to hold out his arms so that maybe Finiel can sort of like grab him and help lower him.
Okay then. So
make him down so he can get down to the bottom.
Okay then. Make an athletics check for me, please. And do you wish to look it? You would have to re-roll it.
Yeah, and I would need to get below 15 on a re-roll.
Yeah.
You know, why the hell not?
No. So yeah, you sort of like get lower down. It's not the perfect limbering down. Finiel doesn't let your feet touch right until she sort of like lets you down too suddenly. You do hit the base of the area a little bit harder. You take 3 points of damage onto one of your legs. It doesn't matter which one it is.
Right, so that puts me down to 0 on my leg.
Right, hang on then, because
it puts me down to 1.
1. Okay, that's fine. Because if it was 0, then you would need to do an endurance roll.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you land down at that. Yeah. So Laram
twisting his ankle again.
Yeah. Or maybe scraped something. Yeah. So Laram he's impaled in 3 places. In his body on these spikes. Bartleby, you're the next one up to this because Laram's in the pit.
How big are these spikes?
They're about 2 to 3 meters in length.
And how far down has he got? Am I going to have to lift his whole body to get him off the?
No. Finiel and Bartleby, you're at the top of the thing. You can sort of like, you're going to need somebody else, yeah, because you can't elevate this arm up over the spike.
Gulliver's going to shout up, I need rope.
So as I'm hearing this, we go. I'll reach for my backpack and I'll go, here's some rope, and I shall throw it over the edge. And at the same time, I'll shout back to Hengist and say, Hengist, remember the wood from the bottom? Shall we go back and get it and bring it up for a brace?
You, Hessaret, are you keeping hold of one end of the rope?
I
think he's going to. I think he was passing it forwards rather than.
All right. So to whom?
To whoever's in front of me.
I'll take it.
So it was Bartleby, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Bartleby, you've got the rope.
I guess I start feeding the rope down to Gulliver, keeping a grip on my end.
Okay. How much rope is it? Is it
10?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So yes, Gulliver, the rope comes down. You've got hold of it now.
Okay, so once it's down, and he wants to get a bit of slack, and he wants to try to attach it round Loran's middle.
Okay. Yeah. You can do that. You can make a reasonable knot and sort of like tie it tight.
Which of the wounds looks? I mean, they all look bad
Well, he's got wounds from the 3 spikes that are impaled on him, plus he's got additional wounds as well from the fall.
Okay, Gulliver is going to try to, through the power of his magic, to heal the wounds from the fall.
Okay, so he actually took a grand total of 6 points on his chest. Okay, some of his armor stopped it, but
does it still look like a minor wound?
Yes.
Okay, so if it doesn't look too bad, because Gulliver knows that his magic can't heal anything too serious, but if it doesn't look too bad, then Gulliver's going to sort of like. He's still there, yeah. Yeah. He's going to put his hand on Loran's chest, and he's going to say, "Don't worry, Loran, we'll get you out." And then he's going to. You hear him say, "Leia," as he tries once again to cast his.
Yeah. So don't forget, this will have to be hard.
Yeah, because it's automatic on the thing.
Sorry, Emma scrolled up.
No, he didn't do it.
No.
So he's going to try again.
Point of luck gone then?
No, he's going to wait until I don't have any more luck. I'm going to have to wait and try to cast the spell again.
So therefore, it'll be formidable.
Would I be able to pass the rope to Finial and start climbing down?
Well, yeah, you'll have to do an athletics roll to climb down.
No, press the wrong button.
No, it still doesn't. It still doesn't.
Okay.
You're obviously too worn out from everything. Don't forget to take your magic points off.
If I were to look over the edge and roll my healing skill, would I be able to quickly predict how much time roughly I think he might have in like seconds compared to minutes?
He's not dying. The issue is if he wasn't impaled, it wouldn't be a problem at all.
But once he's impaled, as soon as we start pulling him up, he's then going to take half more damage again, because it's just like having a spear in him. Yeah,
and then removed.
Correct.
Okay.
But you can't heal him while he's on the spikes.
Yeah, so we're going to have to take him up and hope that.
So the idea is now that you're going to have to get enough people together to pull on the rope.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm here now.
And there's going to be a lovely sound.
And the problem is too many people and then throw him into the wall, which will then give him concussion. He'll die anyway.
Oh, thank you. Let me just make a note of that.
So it's Finial and Bartleby up top holding the rope at this time?
So you're going to have to make a brawn roll. Yeah, exactly. Now Finial is not she is quite dexterous.
Do you want me to pass the rope back down to me as well then, since it's 10 meters?
I've used some. It's 6 meters down, and I've used some to attach around his middle.
So there's 2 meters left at the top, really.
Yeah, that's about right. Finial's brawn, just so you know, is 23.
Wow, that's worse than mine.
Yeah. Well, she's not the.
Yeah, she's more athletic than she's like me, more endurance and athletic.
Yeah, her athletics is 61.
Yeah, it's like mine 63. Yeah. Who's got the biggest? Right. Okay. So,
who's rolling this? Who's pulling on this rope then?
How many of us can apply to it? Would it just be 2?
Probably 2 for the first couple of pulls, but then you'll have more rope and you can put it. I'm only going to the first roll that you're going to make is to pull him off the spikes.
Right. Mr. Bartleby, would you like me to squeeze past you and give a heave ho with the lady, or do you think you could do it?
I should pray to Amriel and call her down here so that when we pull Ram up, I can channel her directly into his wounds.
I understand. So you want me to pull and you to channel Amriel?
Yes.
Yes.
If I can, I'm going to be focusing, praying, trying to get the heal wound miracle. I guess technically, would this be kind of like holding the miracle? Yeah,
well, you can just take minutes to cast it. So it'll be an easy roll when it comes out. So, okay then. So so Hessaret, are you the brawn person who's pulling this out?
I'll be doing brawn, but I'm at hard. So
can we have Finial helping as well?
Yeah, Finial's
So
and can I assist them down the?
Oh, by pushing.
I maybe can wedge myself underneath.
Okay then. So Finial's role is her skill is what did I say? 23. So a fifth of that would be roughly 4.
Mm-hmm.
And Gulliver, what's your brawn?
Mine's 16.
16. So a fifth of that is going to be 3.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? So you're going to have
7 on top of my. So I'm going to be 44.
Yeah. So put that onto your skill, and then.
But you're hard, aren't you, at the moment?
I am hard.
Right. Okay.
At the moment. Oh, for a point of luck. Sorry.
Yeah. No. That you all sort of like heave ho. And Gulliver, you hear sort of like sounds. It's a pity that you've still got your fatigue, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Do we have anybody who can remove fatigue?
Oh, meta. Talk about meta gaming.
If only we had somebody like that.
So you all try to do your bit to try to pull him off, but it's unsuccessful. You do notice, Gulliver, that he started to bleed slightly more because, some of the tugging has actually sort of like opened the wounds as these things have gone through his arms, etc.
Gulliver's going to say, "Stop, you're making it worse."
Gulliver, my friend. Can you not move him with your mind like you do with other people? If you move him with your mind, perhaps we can heal him when he's off. But and
then when the spell stops,
he's back on the spine.
If we chop down the spikes before you break the spell, but I don't know how this works. And so, I mean, it's a barbarian from the steppes. I don't know. But maybe if we get rid of the spikes when he goes back to where he
Gulliver, you look at the spikes, and the spikes are probably a good meter underground as well. Can you see they're not just stood on? It's been dug out and popped in, and sealed in there. So they're not just sort of like balancing on the top of the soil or anything.
And they're not wooden; they're just solid bronze.
Solid bronze. Bronze, yeah.
Does Loran look like he's bleeding out or anything like that?
It certainly does look like it now. Yeah.
Out of character. Let's go.
Will our next pull be like my spell, and it'll be one level difficult?
Correct.
Yeah, it's formidable. Let's do it. Where's Hengist? What's your brawn, Hengist? Are you a strong Hengist, man of the iron, ex-guardman Hengist?
Sorry, yeah. Angus says I can give it a go if you want me to.
Would you be able to help me, or would you want me to help you?
What's your brawn, Hengist?
It's 58.
I will help you, Hengist.
58.
Come up, Hengist. Take the slack, my friend.
Right. Okay then. So hang on. Let's rearrange somebody, because your brawn is higher than Finian's.
Yep.
So Gulliver, what are we? Hazra, what's your brawn?
Mine's 37.
37. So that'd be 6.
Yep.
6 and 4 from you, 3 from you. So Hengist, that's 9 onto your skill.
Are we getting some from Gulliver as well?
Yeah, that was 4.
Oh, that's 4.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's
right.
4. Yeah.
Oh, because we can't have Fenrir helping, can we?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So once Hengist has made his way to the front, there is he obviously starts to pull a lot better, and with you pushing underneath Gulliver, there's a definite sort of like sound and a cry from Laram as you impale him, and then you're able quite easily to sort of like get him up onto one side. So now we can have some. I think you're in charge of healing, Bartleby.
Yes, and I can only select a single body location. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the miracle I'm gonna be doing.
Okay. So this he's got 4 locations that need to be healed. Okay, his chest is the worst. And then each one of his arms are like his arms and his leg, I think it was. Where was it?
The chest's the worst, is it? Did you say?
Hang on, I'm just seeing. Right, his left arm, right arm, and right leg are the ones. His chest has actually got a proper wound on it. The rest,
a serious wound?
It's a. Let me just check. No.
Are there any serious wounds?
No. The only thing is, and I say this in the nicest way, there will be soon.
Oh, he's bleeding out, isn't he?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to waste the minutes I spent praying.
So
despite that
you've got
overkill.
You've got 2 legs, I think, an arm and a chest.
Yep.
I'll go for the worst wound then, unless one of the limbs appears to be bleeding out particularly.
Okay, so
bad.
let's just say that you go for the one that is bleeding out the most, which will be one of the legs or the arm, because his chest wasn't impaled, so he doesn't have a bleed. Yeah, so roll away.
Here is my roll. I'm already saying if I fail this, I'm going to use my last point of luck.
No, that actually succeeds. So one of his legs is now fine. So it's his right arm, his right leg, and his chest that still need healing. If anybody's got first aid,
Yes. I'm up the top. I'm not down there, am I? Sorry.
first aid will actually.
You're behind.
Do you want me to climb down the rope and to help with first aid?
He's out.
Up, mate.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
That was the ball, though.
Oh, sorry. In which case,
Yeah.
yes, I'll use first aid on him.
So you can roll your first aid skill, therefore.
No, this is still hard, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have some healing. I was going to try and help there.
Okay. So
You'll
roll
probably get another healing on because that's a minute.
roll 1d3. That's right.
Sorry, yes, I'm on my way. Oh, how do I do D3 on this? / roll D3.
Yeah.
1D.
1d3. Yeah. It stops the bleeding. It's his other leg now. He's still got a minor wound on it, but it's not bleeding anymore. You've wrapped your bandages around it. So, were you going to do some more spell casting, Bartleby?
Yes. This time,
So his right arm and his chest.
would it be fair to say that I could take minutes, or is he still bleeding pretty badly from his arm?
No, we assume that somebody sort of like apply direct pressure to it, so you can do it easily. That's not a problem.
I'm going for easier manifestations of Amriel in this form.
Yeah.
Taking minutes, and there's my roll.
Yeah, so that will cure his right arm. So he's only got a minor wound on his right leg and a minor wound on his chest at the moment.
I'd like to apply my Amriel's grace to his chest as my last act of healing, if I may.
Yeah, go for it.
Minutes again, if I can.
Yeah.
Rolling.
Yeah, so that will cure his chest.
And I'm decreasing my magic points,
Yeah.
of course.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I've just seen the time. So right, so what we'll assume will happen now is that you grab Gulliver. Gulliver gets out the trap, all right, and you can pull him up after you lower the rope again, and then you will. I'm assuming that you're going to go back for the
Planks. Pull them up.
planks. Yeah, so we'll assume therefore that you all work together to stretch the planks over the pit. And you do notice that they actually fit into little grooves across both sides of the pit.
That's why they're brass on the ends.
Yeah, and you sort of like notice that they sort of like click into place. And where at that point you can take a brief rest. So any fatigue that you've built up, will be able to go, because it's just minutes that you need to do that. We will start next week's adventure, next week's session at that point. So there'll be no fatigue, but you haven't rested.
Do we still get our luck points back, don't we? This new session?
The luck points will come back as normal, but you'll be in that state. And that seems a reasonable place to stop it. And just so you know, while you're resting in there, and you've got your torch light there, you notice that the corridor continues down. It's a tunnel, and it continues almost like down on an incline, a decline, sorry. And you can see at the bottom of the decline there's a starting entrance that is arched with stone round it. And it obviously goes into some kind of a chamber.
Man-made chamber, yeah.
And we will leave it there for this week to see what happens. Okay, so well done, guys. We're nearly there. We're nearly there. It's not long before we get to finish. So in a matter of probably next week will be the last Professor Chuckles.
Broke up there.
Sorry, that was Professor Chuckles just coming in.
Oh,
Yeah. So well done. So we'll start next week's session off. We're like that. Don't forget to take your fatigue off. Right. Does anybody have any announcements that they would like to make?
no.
When's your next game, Mr. Pickles?
I would have said, but I don't know. We're kind of doing it. We figure out a time each week randomly.
Okay, no worries. So we will be back with this campaign a week today, 7 o'clock BST time. And tomorrow I'll be streaming ESO, probably working on the Mayhem event and seeing how far I can get in Battlegrounds, etc. On Tuesday at 7 o'clock BST time on the 1900 hours, where there will be some Shadowrun going on. And then on next Thursday at 1900 hours BST time, there will be the continuation of the Abaddon mystery for Call of Cthulhu. We will be back next week at the same time, at the same place, to discover what lies within the chamber and what the party has discovered and what is the Hessaret's treasure. Gold, magical items, what will it be? Come back next week. Don't forget to press the follow, and I'll see you next week at 7 o'clock BST time in the evening, where we'll find out and run the concluding part of Hessaret's treasure. Until then, please remember to be who you are and say what you feel, because the people who mind don't matter, and the people who matter don't mind. Have fun, and I will catch you all later. And until then, consider yourself waffled. Have fun, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Your exit was longer than